feel it in your soul. A live from head to toe. I'll go just alone. I can't stop scratching my mind. I gotta keep asking why. Stop telling me all the time everything will be fine. I can't stop scratching my mind. I don't know. Can't see through your skin. I'm not your guardian. I can't see through your skin. Can't see through my skin. All the time. Everything will be fine. Scratching my mind. I don't know. So I'll go.
What's up, guys? Carter Thomas in the house, man.
Here we are.
Good to see you,
Doing it
dude.
all over again.
Yes. It's been a long time.
Yeah, YouTube always brings me back.
Hell yeah, man. Hey, let's just do a quick mic check. This is only our second live stream. We finally got the studio ready to go and all that. So if you guys can hear us, just type a yes in the chat and let us know you're there.
And make sure you hit the thumbs up button.
Oh yeah, that too.
Smash the like button. Just do it. You got it. It's amazing. You'll totally love it.
Yep. Go grab yourself a drink. We'll give you guys like a couple minutes. We'll talk about our choice for the first Wisdom and Whiskey episode.
That's right. We got the Four Roses.
Four Roses, man.
Single barrel. Not sponsored.
Yeah, I figured we'd go with one of my favorites. This is, I don't know who told me about this or why it's my favorite, but it's reasonably priced for a single barrel. It's nice and smooth, and it's accessible. Like, I think they have it all over the place. So I was like, yeah, let's just start with this one.
Yeah, it's great. I'm enjoying it thoroughly.
Sick, dude. All right. Well, looks like the chat is good. Good to see you guys are in there smashing the like button and saying what up. What are you guys drinking today?
Happy Friday, TGIF.
Happy Friday. This is officially like the longest week in history, it feels like.
Dude, gap ups every day.
Yeah.
Bitcoin going through the roof.
Election craziness.
Yeah, the election. I don't even like to attention to that.
Are we past that now? Can we say we're past
it's like,
that?
yeah, do we have a president or a Senate or anything?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Shit, man. I don't know about you guys, but I haven't drank all week because I was trying to focus, with Bitcoin and Ethereum popping and so much action in the stock market, earnings, gaps, just everything going crazy. And I was like, all right, I need to focus. I'm going to save the whiskey for Friday.
Smart man.
And now is the time.
Yeah, especially last Friday, put back a few margaritas ourselves.
That's right. Yep. True. Welcome to Austin, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, man.
Great to be here.
So, I don't know. We can kick off talking about crypto. Actually, let's do this. For anybody that doesn't know who you are or why you disappeared from YouTube, retired from YouTube, maybe we could start there.
All right,
Who is Carter Thomas?
That's a good question. I'll keep it pretty brief. So I built a bunch of online businesses, all around kind of consumer brands or consumer trends, I guess, like apps and Amazon selling and Facebook marketing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And got into crypto 2016, started buying a lot of Ethereum, buying a lot of Bitcoin. And in the summer of 2017, I was like, I can't get answers to any questions I have, like basic market related questions. So
For crypto?
Yeah. So I started this YouTube channel, and I think there's like some of the first videos are still there where I'm on the video. I'm like, okay, listen, I don't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to document myself kind of learning how this all goes down. So you can imagine how wild of a journey that was. And I think that the bull market and just like the community was so energetic.
Yeah.
That I could wake up every day and I could produce 30 minutes of content, and then I could produce free courses and PDFs, learn everything on my own, and still be like super stoked every day.
Yeah.
And
you were doing live, or not live, but you were doing a video every single day, right?
Yeah.
Or at least, was it Monday through Friday, or were you doing weekends too?
It was usually Monday through Friday, and then sometimes I do a live stream on the weekends.
Okay.
And it wasn't edited; it was just 30 minutes typically, and I would just go through like, here's what's on the price action, here's some of the news, and like, here's something else you should, I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
So, kind of as the bubble burst, I found myself June 2018, and I was down to maybe 3 times a week, and I was just asking, like, I'm doing these videos, but I'm not really doing anything different every time, because the brand was kind of built on, hey, I'm learning all this stuff, but it's hard to learn and to keep things interesting when everybody's losing all their money, especially when people have leveraged a massive amount of their wealth into this money, which a lot of people did who were reaching out to me. They're like, I took a mortgage out of my house. I was like, don't do that.
Yeah. Got caught up in all the ICO scams and
totally. Yeah. And so I started to get a lot of heat from people. Like, obviously there's all the scammers and hackers and all that, but it was just kind of like a downer.
Yeah.
So like I was people wanted me to bring them out of the funk and like give them hope again that it was going to work out. And I probably would have felt the same way if I was on the other side. And one day I just woke up and I said, I can't keep doing this.
Yeah.
Something is out of alignment here.
So it sounds like you lost your passion for it, or you were just like, look, like I'm not learning anything new right now, and there's nothing exciting to talk about. So let me just take a hiatus. And
it was that. It was also like, I didn't have a product. I don't like making products. Yeah. I like promoting people's products, but I have no interest in making products. And so I was waking up and building this YouTube channel, but like there was no, it's one thing if you have a content business and you're pushing traffic to something you own, you're building a business and you're making money. It's another thing when you're building traffic to build an audience so that eventually you can promote something later. But I was like, it's hard when you don't have a business behind the front end of the content.
Yeah.
And that's when it burns you out. It's like going to a job and not having a purpose. It's the same kind of feeling.
Makes sense.
Like, what am I doing? You know?
And yeah, it is weird. Like in bear markets, it's strange because I felt that too. Like in bear markets, I know there's a lot of new people that watch my stuff that bought the highs or that got into a lot of scams. And so you get the people that say, what is it in bear markets? Why the fuck are you doing videos now? Crypto's dead. Bitcoin's going to zero. You're an idiot. Move on. And then when a bear market or a bull market hits, like now it's like, oh, now they're doing videos because they're in a bull market. Yeah. Market top signal, right? So it's like no matter what you do, there's going to be those loser haters.
Right.
But one thing that made it worth all this for me is like the feedback that I hear from people that do it the right way, that are like, you know, hey man, I watched your video. I made a life-changing amount of money. Like, thank you. Like that's what gets me juiced and what makes all the bullshit worth it. Right. Did you have a lot of stories like that?
You know, I didn't have a lot of stories like that because I wasn't really teaching people how to trade. I wasn't teaching somebody about markets or investing. I was just saying, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm learning along the way. If you want to learn how to trade, you know, go sign up for your course. And for anybody who's listening right now or watching, like you should go check out your course because it's legit. I mean, I promoted it. I loved it. And that was one of the hard things is that I think I was more of like the person that people put on when they're driving to work or when they're going for a walk or going for a run or something. And I could take some of these bigger concepts and sometimes break them down so that like a lot of people would have these kind of like, oh, I have this holy shit moment. Like I get it. I understand. I see something I didn't see. Yeah. It wasn't me being like, here's how you buy, resist, or, you know, sell, buy, whatever it may be. Cause I didn't really know what I was doing back then. Yeah. So a lot of it was demystifying the world of crypto. Which is like that's a huge thing that needs to be done, right? Because just the tech or just the barrier to entry and the risks of like holding your own capital and trying to be your own bank, like that's a weird thing. It's a weird thing. That's something that, you know, most people, if they do have the desire to do it, it's like overwhelming to think about like, what do you mean hardware wallets and security stuff and exchanges and like, and then on top of that, you got to make like smart decisions and not chase and be prepared. Like it's a really hard thing to do, but that's also, I think, what makes it profitable, right? Yeah. Is like that learning curve and those inefficiencies in the market create massive opportunities if you're willing to put in the work and be patient enough. That's a really good point. I remember like talking about top signal. I think it was like January 7th. I went to Vegas and these guys threw a huge Vegas party. It was probably 400 or 500 guys came. It was a Facebook group and I was on a stage with a panel, probably like six or seven other guys who were either kind of big names in the group or had helped out or had made a lot of money or whatever. In the crypto space or something else? Yeah, in crypto. Okay. And it was just like, I mean, I think we did it at like a Corvette dealership. It was at a car dealership with like sports cars in the back. Yeah. I mean, it was so perfect looking back of this is the top. Anyway, someone stood up and asked, you know, it's just such a pain to have to do the hardware wallet and have to have all these different brokers and their security it's such a huge pain in the ass to do any of this stuff. And I said the same thing you said. I said, the reason because it's hard is because it's one of the reasons why it's so valuable right now. Yeah. Like that's why you can make these kind of gains. And if you are willing to put in the time and the energy to learn this stuff, like you're going to reap the rewards. Like fortune favors the bold and it always has, and it always will. Yeah. And like, this is one of the things you got to do. And and he was like, oh, okay. Like a lot of people just don't think about that. They don't think that the hard stuff may be one of the reasons why it's so valuable. Yeah. If it was so easy, like it wouldn't be that valuable. It's like on one side of the spectrum, you have just buying like low fee index funds in the stock market, which takes no skill, no thinking. And that's what a lot of RIAs, investment advisors, have been preaching is like, oh, dude, just let us handle your money or buy a low fee index fund. On the exact opposite side, it's like, yeah, come into crypto. Guess what? Not only is there no like safety measures if you fuck your shit up, like everybody's like
trying to actively get your stuff. And, you know, exchanges can exit scam. You can have a hardware wallet that bricks on you. And if you didn't back up the codes, it's like, what are you even talking about, right? It's just two completely different things. And you've got to be weird to want to get into crypto, I think. All you guys watching are kind of weird if you're into this.
I think you definitely need to have some level of, like, you believe that there's something wrong with the system. Like you see the cracks, and when you hear conspiracy theories, you're like, okay, everything that I've been taught tells me that this is ridiculous, but maybe there's something like, and I think that everybody that I met through crypto had that same feeling of like, there's a little bit of like this, something that's kind of scammy is going on with the world. Like there's some underlying weirdness that nobody's telling us. And I think that hooks a lot of people in when they're like, and then the store, whatever part of crypto they are drawn to feeds into that feeling of the system is not built for them. Like they're outside of the system.
Like what's the saying? Like if you can't explain an idea simply, you don't understand it. I feel like that's the traditional financial system and, you know, all this stuff with the Fed and how is money created. Why is that not simple to understand?
Right.
Why does that have to be so complex? And who are the people in charge? And where do you have to put your faith again? Like, even for somebody like us, you know, that's kind of a nerd about this stuff. Like, I even wake up some days going, what? Like, what is this system we're living in? And then you got to remind yourself like, oh, dude, money is just a social construct. Humans made this up. There are no rules. It's all an experiment. Everybody just accepts that the dollar is, you know, money, but it's only been in its current state for a few decades.
Right.
It's, you know,
I think I'm in a group, a Slack group with a bunch of guys. You know, most like money managers, some hedge fund guys. And there's a crypto channel and I pretty much am the only person to post anything in there. But one guy, he's a hedge fund, he partner in a hedge fund. And he's like, I just can't get my head around Bitcoin. I know what it is. I get it.
Yeah.
But there's a part of me that just still thinks it's a scam. And I responded and I said, yeah, okay. Let me tell you, like, how does this sound? Go, at any moment, there are about 20 men who could dictate the price of crude oil to whatever they want and change the entire world's pricing on crude oil tomorrow if they wanted to. There's a group of financial ministers in China that every night fix the currency rate at whatever they want. There is a group of people in America where if the stocks go down a certain amount, they will print fake digital money to make sure that those stocks go back up. I was like, so you're telling me like you think Bitcoin's a scam, but everything else is just as real. Like everything's a scam. Like it's all a scam.
Yeah.
Like it's all a video game.
Yeah.
And like how you just got to pick your poison here.
I've been thinking, and I was going to map out maybe a blog post, like what is a scam? Like let's define, like what are the terms of a scam? Is it somebody's telling a lie? Is it you don't know what's behind a system and it's obscure and you just don't trust it? Is it manipulated by a small group of rich white dudes behind some, you know, in some closet somewhere? And then you think about Bitcoin, you're like, well, there is no lie because it's code, right? Could it be built on hope and faith in an alternate system? Yeah. Could that collapse? Yeah. Is it risky? Yeah. But could it change the world, and could people's beliefs in money flip too? And could this be the best opportunity to build wealth in the history of our lifetimes?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that I get the feeling that a lot of these people who can't come from the existing financial world, they look at Bitcoin, there's like, there's probably a group of 25 people who are mining this in 2009, 2010, who own 10 million Bitcoin. This is probably true. I mean, there's probably a cohort of 100 people that own a disproportionate amount of crypto. And my response is, well, first of all, that's like everything else. And second of all, once you get to know the crypto world and especially the Bitcoin world, those are the people that are never, ever going to sell. Like if you talk about trying to secure a network, I would rather have people that were mining in 2009 own all the Bitcoin than people now, because they believe completely, you know, their identity is tied to it. So it's almost like a thing that makes it more secure. Whereas from the outside looking in, it makes it look like the Gini coefficient is so out of whack that that inequality is going to create collapse. Like it's going to be too much for the system. And I'm like, no, actually, I don't think if Bitcoin went to 500,000, I don't think these guys would ever cash out.
Yeah.
Why would they? You know?
That's what I've been thinking about. Everybody's talking about like moon prices. And I asked myself like, well, if price went to 500,000 tomorrow, like, would you want to sell? Meaning, would you want to give away your Satoshis for dollars? Because the only way that Bitcoin goes to 500K is, I think, one of two reasons. And tell me if you can think of more. One is a speculative bubble like 2017. The other is something breaks in the traditional finance system, and it breaks so bad that the dollar is just not what it used to be. And it's not, you know, people don't view it as a strong form of money.
Right.
And therefore, if it equals 500K, what does that actually mean? And then you start to think, well, what if we start repricing whiskey in Satoshis, right? Like, because right now, Bitcoin is a great form of money in all the properties, divisibility, you know, portability, all that stuff, except for being a unit of account, right? Like counting in Satoshis is a pain in the ass. And like, how do you price stuff, especially with the volatility, right?
I think that's one of the kind of the mind fucks of macro, at least with currencies, is that 500K is like, if you look at the stock market priced in gold terms, it looks totally different. If you look at it priced in euros, it looks different. If it looks in all these different currencies. And I think what may happen is when it gets to be $500,000 or whatever it ends up being, maybe it goes down to zero, who knows? At some point, pricing things in dollars may not be what it means to price things in dollars right now.
Yeah.
Like it could end up becoming a very different way to think about what it's worth. And there may need to be a new accountability metric that defines value better than US dollars does, or any global currency. I mean, maybe there's a whole new basket of currencies. Maybe it's the Libra, whatever it may be. But I think that it's also the nature of it, like deflationary asset, the way it is that it's going to become, it's like kind of in its own world, where I don't think it could ever become like a foundation for a lot of stuff, because you can't create new value from, I mean, you could create like derivative value and ETFs and whatever else you want to do, but like a government couldn't adopt it and then print money when they need to print money. Like any sort of Keynesian economics kind of falls apart.
Yeah.
Underneath like a Bitcoin type of regime, which I think the world has shown that without the ability to create debt and credit, things fall apart very quickly.
I wonder if that's where synthetics could come in. Like, I mean, you know, derivative, but like, yeah, you're right. I mean, central governments couldn't do anything with that really, but that's what they're trying to do with their central bank digital currencies. So,
well, yeah, I think it's just the matter. It's like Bitcoin specifically. I mean, I think that any coin that doesn't have a fixed supply, you can print as much as you want. Like it's in the Treasury's right to, like, I think Stellar, you can print as much as you want. Maybe not, but like some of those like high number, like there's billions of coins in the system. You can get pretty loose about what you do and what you don't do.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just know the next few years, I feel like are going to be really weird. Yeah. Like things are starting to accelerate. It already is.
I mean, look at, I mean, we're living it right now. There's some sort of, there's got to be some sort of psychological phenomenon. Like when you're living it, you just kind of, it becomes normal. But if you look at it in a history book and you looked at what we're living through, it would look totally insane. And it would look insane, especially if you went back 15 years ago and said, okay, it's 2005. The biggest company in the world is General Electric. And this is what the world looks like. Everybody's getting a house and things are good. And, you know, the S&P is starting to make its comeback, back up to highs where it should have been after the 2000 crash. And people are like, okay, this is good. And if you said, okay, this is what the world's going to look like in 2020, and this is what's going to be happening with the financial system, with the social order, with the global world, they'd be like, you got to be kidding. Like, no way. That's like, it's impossible. Yeah.
Hindsight's easy because it's 2020, right? It makes sense. We can learn from it. But when you think about the future
crazy.
and where things could go, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So cheers to that though, man.
Cheers, man.
I mean,
So I'm glad to be back. Glad to be back on YouTube. We'll see how many of these we do, but
yeah, man, we should just keep finding good whiskeys to celebrate.
We just got to go down to the store and get the guy to do the picking for us.
Yeah, man. So what have you been doing since you retired from YouTube? And have you been actively trading, investing? Like what's a life in the day?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is learning the futures market. Like that's a lot of what I do now and what I've been doing, which is not crypto. It's like NASDAQ mostly, some S&P 500. For the first 6 months, as anybody who kind of learns futures markets is you're like, oh, you can trade currencies, you can trade crude oil, you can trade gold. And you kind of see how all these markets trade and what works for you and what leverage levels work for you. But yeah, my bread and butter tends to be the NASDAQ just because it makes such massive moves to the upside. And it's like, if you can get into those bottom moves and the mean reverting bottoms, like you look at all the statistics, all the back testing, it's just a massive mover.
Yeah.
And like the bull trend is there. It's no sign of slowing down. It's like, oh, if you just do long setups on the NASDAQ in the futures market, like you back test that's a pretty good business.
Yeah. So are you day trading it, swing trading it? Like what's your average hold time, and how many trades a month are you taking? The reason I ask this, because that's actually where I came from, right? So I was in the futures market before crypto, and I left the futures market because I was like, holy shit, this is changing, right? Like I started trading futures in high school, started building systems through and after the GFC in 08. And then by the time like 2012, 2013 started rolling around, I was like, man, it's getting harder to find an edge. The competition's going up. The volatility is shrinking. And then I just went all in on Bitcoin. So it's kind of interesting that like you flipped, you like came into crypto and now you're in the futures market. So I'm curious what you're doing and how that's going for you.
I do a lot of... So to answer your question, I probably trade anywhere from 2 to 5 times a week. It just kind of depends on what the market looks like. And the trades can be anywhere from 5 minutes to 2 days. It just really depends on what kind of targets I'm looking at. And it's just a different beast. Like crypto, I find is impossible to short-term trade. I know guys do it. I'm terrible at short-term trades on crypto. But yeah, for swing trading, I find that the traditional markets are a lot, like it's a lot more mentally taxing than crypto. It's like, if you know what to look for on Bitcoin or Ethereum, those patterns play out so beautifully.
Yeah. That 2 week to 2 month time frame is just
so good.
Bread and butter,
it's
man.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And on the major markets, it's like, it's hard, man. It's because like you got all these different forces that are creating different imbalances, I guess is the right word. So I don't swing trade as much I do individual stocks for, especially for my retirement account stuff. Cause then, you're not looking at any taxes on it or tax deferrals. And yeah, I mean, I guess it's just how it's worked out well for me, especially with crypto. Like you can just get these massive moves that you don't get anywhere else. Like you might get a few stocks here and there, but you'll never get 100% gains in a couple weeks anywhere else consistently than crypto.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope that continues, and I think it will on this next wave of DeFi after this first wave gets flushed out. So the timeframes that you're trading on the indices are like, it basically depends on how big the move is, I guess.
Right.
But you're not like typically like swing trading for like weeks or months or anything like that.
No. Especially on the futures market, just because, I mean, I've had a few trades go against me.
Yeah.
And I mean, as any trader, I mean, I'm not like a trader. I'm like learning how to trade, I'm year 2 of hopefully 20 years. But man, you do a few bad trades and in crypto and you're like, whatever, like I'll find the next thing. It's always going to moon. Like
Yeah.
Eventually, it'll go way up.
Yeah.
You know, like it's kind of like,
Just wait.
yeah, it is good. But at the futures market, it's like if you make a mistake and you don't correct that mistake very quickly, you get your ass handed to you.
Oh yeah.
That
the algos will run your stops
Yeah.
and destroy you.
And it's just like the amount of leverage and the speed at which that can move. And you're dealing with huge amounts of margin. It's a lot of, you're moving hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in a couple minutes.
Yeah.
You learn very quickly. And so for me, I want to spend the least amount of time in the futures market with money exposed as I possibly can.
Get in and get out.
Like that's it. And sometimes the opportunity is a day long. Sometimes it's 12 minutes long, whatever. But
cool, man. So it depends on maybe the veracity of the sell-off, because you said you're basically buying dips on the Nasdaq, right?
That's my bread and butter is when you get these huge capitulations. It can be on a daily time frame, it can be on a 1 minute time frame, whatever.
Yeah.
Where you get you can see the volume spiking and you see the price dropping, and then you see it bounce. There's such a huge supply of set of data that you can backtest on that. That's gonna, if you have a certain amount of things going in the right direction, you're looking at 85-90% chance of getting 15-20 points every time. And with deep liquidity, I mean, you can move 50 contracts in there. Like you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Over and over. It just doesn't come around that often. You're not going to see that every day.
Do you find yourself like how's the psychological side of that? Because for me, I like day trading the futures markets was like probably the most stressful thing I ever did, and it was probably because I was over trading. Like I learned a lot of hard lessons there. But if you're being patient and taking just a couple trades a week, like are you mentally okay, or does it wear on you, or like how does that feel?
Yeah, it can. I think, what this saying is there's a lot of bold traders, there's a lot of old traders, but there's not a lot of bold old traders.
That's such a good way to say it, man.
And
yeah.
I think as I've gotten into, the third year of trading, I've just stopped trying to prove anything.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't need to make some huge win on every single trade. And even if I do see a sweet setup, I'm not like, oh man, I'm going to put it all in.
Mm-hmm.
Like once in a while, I'll go for the jugular or something. And once in a while it works, sometimes it doesn't. But I think that I've experienced the stress of having huge losers and then having them come back or having to manage your way out of them, and being on the other side of that and being like, this is horrible. Like it's so stressful. It just forces you to reevaluate what you're doing and how you're trading and why you're trading. And it's just, you shrink your position sizes, you look for consistency more than winners, which is hard from crypto, because crypto, all you get is winner. You get home runs.
Yeah.
Like there's no such thing as a single in crypto. And so,
unless you turn into a bag holder and you just buy, like do the shotgun approach with a bunch of shit coins.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you own a bunch of Zcash. So,
which by the way, how is that doing?
I think they got their halving coming in.
Yeah. Let's pull up some charts.
In a week or two.
Let's see what's going on today. So obviously Bitcoin's been on a massive rip. Let's see where we are right now. Yeah. So kind of a pause day. Let's see across the board. Looks like a sea of green.
Wow. DNT. They got listed on Coinbase. Dude, I remember when DNT did their ICO, and it was like, it looked pretty cool, but it turned out to be the biggest joke from a price action standpoint, like as you can see. But I think they just got listed on Coinbase, and it must have just, I would imagine it's some bag holder just pumped that so hard to get the exposure. Yeah. And then that use the liquidity to dump all his coins.
Yeah. I've seen so many times where, you'll have a coin that'll be listed either on Kraken or Coinbase Pro, and then it gets listed on Coinbase Retail, and then the app traders get it, and then they drive it up, and then there's an ARB opportunity that lasts for like 2 hours, and then eventually the shit just crashes.
Yeah, then it just goes back down to zero. Yeah, there's been some pretty. We were talking about this earlier with like a lot of DeFi coins are definitely pumping the most.
Yeah, Ethereum's making a new high.
I think Ethereum looks awesome right now. I mean, I think the ETH BTC chart's probably, like in terms of a reversal, it's probably the best one.
Yeah.
For bounce at least.
Oh yeah, I don't have an ETH BTC on here. Let me see. It's over here. There we go. Yeah, testing basically multi-year resistance. I like when you get a BTC chart that lines up with a USD chart. So like, for example, you know, actually, so Ethereum, this is the first time I've actually started trading Ethereum since, when was this? This was my last trade, was May 2019. So basically I've been bearish on Ethereum for a long time because it was, you know, it was beholden to so many ICOs and there were so many bag holders. So I saw a good opportunity here. I think I made like maybe 50 or 60%. But now that we've broken out above 300, like this is pretty sick. Like this is what I look for, is like the first breakout of an accumulation range. So my first target on this is like 700. So we'll see what happens.
Like,
but
like something like this on stocks rarely looks this clean.
Yeah.
Like this is the big difference I find is like you would see this sort of, you know, the resistance zones, the supply zones, you'd see a breakout, you'd see it retest. And on stocks, you might see it like puke down again, jackknife up, like go way down, and then eventually it would come back up and just like totally screw you over. This is just, it's so perfect. I mean, especially in the higher time frames, it just works out so well.
it is a lot easier. And I've tried to come up with all the reasons why that is. Do you have any?
I mean, I think I would imagine it just has to do with like a lack of algorithms, like a lack of computer quant trading, try to option, you know, not many options markets doing stuff like that.
That makes sense. I think that's true. I also think there's a lot more dumb money in the space in crypto. And by the way, that's not an insult to anybody. That's like an actual technical term. Like what I mean by dumb money is like people just FOMOing in and chasing and actually, so there's been this debate. I've seen this coming up more recently in the crypto space where a lot of guys are saying like, don't trade, only hodl. And I'm like, okay, first of all, if you buy crypto, you are a trader.
Right.
Period. The only question is, what is your time frame? Because if you come into crypto with this attitude of, no, I'm just going to buy and hold. A, bullshit. Most people say they're going to do that and don't do that. They're the ones that capitulate at the bottom. And B, it's like, if you embrace the idea of understanding market cycles and TA and token economics and understanding why things are moving the way they are, your odds of just having smaller drawdowns are better, right? But, you know, look at all the people, and I'm sure you got tons of messages in 2018 from people that chase the highs going, I'm going to be a hodler. No, you're not. Like I saw it in 2013 too. My first blog post about Bitcoin was saying there was a bubble from when it went from 100 to 1,000, and I was getting all these messages, Chris, I'm buying. I'm like, all right, you know, just be careful. And that's when I did the blog post saying, I think we're going to see a long bear market. Sure enough, I got messages from a lot of people saying, I can't take it anymore. They sold at 200 or where we were buying the capitulation at 188. So I don't buy this whole, like, I'm not a trader. Yes, you are. If you're in crypto, you are a trader. And if you think you're not, you're going to end up on the wrong side of people that know what they're doing.
I think that's right on. And I think, I mean, I was one of those guys. I mean, I in 2017, 2018, I didn't understand trading. And I thought that there was a lot of like virtue in holding. It's like, I'm just going to do it the right way. I'm not going to be a trader. I'm not going to sell and buy. I'm going to be like a maximalist about crypto. And it was this weird identity thing that I adopted. And I think a lot of other people did too. And whenever I would talk about that, it gave comfort to a lot of people because they didn't want to be a trader either. They didn't want the stress of having to think, shit, I should have sold this or should I bought this or whatever. And that was one of the reasons why I did get interested in new markets, is because all of a sudden I was like, this is stupid. Why am I resisting this? Or at least why do I have such judgment around this idea? Maybe I should learn what this is all about and the benefits of it before I make these life decisions. And it was a huge realization. And even now, obviously there's a lot of crypto I'm never going to sell it, right? It's far away somewhere. And then I have a large trading account for crypto. And I have very strict rules where it's like if I get these sell signals or these buy signals, I buy a certain percentage of my stack. And it's just fiat to Bitcoin or Ethereum. Like that's all it is.
Yeah.
Over and over. and it's strict proven rules that doesn't feel good. Like yesterday it fired off one at 15,100. And so I sold a little bit, and it fired another at 15,680. I sold a little bit. And I was like, I don't want, this is going to 50. Like I know how bullish this is, but it forced me to take some fiat off.
Yeah.
And it forced me also not to go buy something else with it.
Yeah.
And I think that it changes the mindset. You stop dreaming about what life is going to be like when Bitcoin's worth $250,000 a pop, and you just start to be like, this is a business. Like this is a business mentality.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to use Bitcoin to, in a smart way, in a risk averse way, get me to where I want to go.
Yeah.
And it just makes, I sleep so much better with that framework than I used to before.
I think that makes so much sense. And I also think it makes sense to have multiple capital buckets. Like you were saying, you've got your cold storage that you're never going to touch, and you can be a hodler and you can go through 80, 90% drawdowns. Like think about it. Okay, let's say somebody who came in 2017 and they're like, I'm just going to be a hodler. They buy near the high, say they buy $1 million worth. By the end of 2018, that $1 million is now worth less than $250,000. Like, think about that. Like,
devastating.
That if you're looking at an account, and if you're one of those people that obsesses every day checking the number, and you see you just lost $750K or more, depending if you're trading bigger size, what are you going to do at that point? A lot of people just throw in the towel, right? And that's why, like, everybody knows buy low, sell high, but everybody doesn't fucking do it.
Right.
Nobody, like, less than 5% of people actually do it.
I along those lines, I think a lot of people have asked me, not that I have the answers by any means of like price action, but they're like, well, what should I do? Like, when should I sell it? When should I buy it? And I asked them, would you still be asking me this if I told you were about to go make 500 grand in cash at your job next week? Would you still be asking me this question? And if the answer is yes, okay, that's a trader question. If the answer is no, it's because you have way too much invested in this, and you just have a fiat problem, and it's all tied up in this crypto right now. And I think that was a lesson that, I mean, I've learned through various investments, but I've gotten a lot better about, of knowing what my tolerance is for, like, how much fiat I need to have available to me so that when I go to bed at night, I could not care less what the markets do. And I also own enough assets so that if Bitcoin does go to 100,000, we'll be on a yacht, like it'll be a lot of fun. And so it's finding that balance and being able to, for me at least, that's been a huge piece of it, is being okay with not having all my chips in, knowing that it's going to keep my head a lot more clear, and that's going to lead to a lot more better decisions. Yeah.
A lot of people that put all their eggs in one basket or one strategy, they're kind of like hanging on and hoping until they can't take the pain anymore. And I've noticed in myself too, it's like you have your HODL capital that you don't care. All right, it goes up, it goes down. And I just published a video the other day talking about like market timing tools. When all of those things are flashing by, you buy. And that's the only time you buy. And then you stick it away, right? In the middle, where we are now, what do you do, right? This is where things get interesting, is like, and I get this question every single day. I don't know if you still do, but should I buy Bitcoin now? And I think the correct answer is, well, it depends, right? Like, how's your fiat situation? And are you comfortable if this goes down 90%? Or do you want to identify zones where you can buy and predefine risk to reward and know when your plan says to get out and minimize your risk, right? The thought of that for some people is like, well, I don't want to take the time to do that. Okay, cool. Then only do the HODL thing. And maybe right now where prices are, 100% or more. Wait, actually, no, we're up, 350 or more percent from the lows in March, right? Like, if you're not willing to buy when everybody is panicking, then you need to learn the trading skills, because you're going to be 90% of the time in the middle of a cycle. It's only a few weeks every couple of years that you're at those extreme pivot points of parabolic action or complete capitulation. Everything else is in the middle.
Right. It's just like the middle innings of the 9 innings. You're like innings 2 through 8. It's where you want to be. Like, don't sweat the tail end.
Yeah. But also I would say don't fucking day trade Bitcoin or crypto. If you, I've met like maybe 2 or 3 guys who at conferences or events or whatever pulled me aside and been like, Chris, like I've actually created an algorithm and I've made X million this year and I'm crushing it, but I can see that I'm getting arbitraged out. There's more competition coming out. I'm like, cool, you actually have an edge.
Yeah, right.
But for the average guy or lady sitting back in their house going, yeah, I'm just going to day trade this or like, you know, try to get in and out really fast, you're going to lose your money, period. The data shows that, right? So that's why like I think the swing trade kind of mid-range, multi-week to multi-month hold, that's the sweet spot, man, where you can make a lot of money if you play it right.
I think that's I completely agree, because one of the best things that ever happened in the futures market was when I realized who I'm competing against, which is the smartest people on earth probably.
Yeah.
And I think in crypto especially, where the closer you get to the 1 minute chart, the more you're competing with the smartest people in the crypto world, which are pretty fucking smart people. And like you're going head to head with algorithms and day traders and quant funds and big,
with the richest, smartest people
really
in the world.
Legit people. But the more you zoom out, the less competitors you have day to day. You know, now you're just competing against people that aren't in the space, and your competition goes way down, and therefore your edge goes way up. And so I think that for anybody in crypto or any market really, I mean, the best place to start is have low position sizes and start from larger time frames. You know, spend less time looking at the charts and let time do the work. You know, that's usually the best strategy.
Yeah. Because when you get into the markets, the desire is to like do a lot of stuff, right? Like take a lot of trades. I actually look back at my data and I think it was I only take action on about 4% of days. 4% of days are actually like hitting buy or hitting sell. Everything else is just researching, waiting, looking at areas. We're in that kind of mid-range, right? It's only in those capitulation moments that I'm looking to get in.
Right. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think, so what do you think this move is going to turn into for Ethereum?
50K, man. No.
50K Ethereum.
Yeah.
No.
So what I did, so this is the way that I look at things. I like to run fib retracements and extensions. So like I look at basically this as one run. So from the bottom of the accumulation range to this pivot high, I'll measure that as a run. And then if we pull up a Fibonacci retracement, you can see that we came right to the 38%. So if I'm ever buying a dip buy, I look to buy in what I call the sweet spot retracement zone. So the sweet spot is in between the 38% to the 61%. So basically inside of this circle. And if I get a setup inside of this zone, that's where I hit it hard. And I mean, this is probably one of my favorite setups of 2020 so far, was an accumulation range breakout. You got both moving averages to the upside. You got the 100 moving quicker than the 2. You got prior resistance, turn support. You know, it's like when you can stack up all of these reasons that create a high probability opportunity, that's where I like to hammer in. And unfortunately, yesterday I was so exhausted. I was going to add here on the 420 break. I was joking in the trading room about this. I'm like, guys, I'm going to buy a 420 and then tweet at Elon. And I fell asleep and slept through my alarms, slept through my alerts. That's the shitty thing about crypto is like, it's a 24/7 market.
Yeah.
So like there have been times where I've missed like really big trades and I'm like, all right, let me go for a walk, have a little sip of whiskey, let me chill, and just know that comes with the territory, man. Like
just
you can't be awake all the time.
Yeah.
Like
I know sometimes I wonder if it's better to be in Asia or the US, because sometimes I don't know what the stats are of like how many huge moves have happened overnight versus how many have happened during I feel like just like anecdotally, a lot of the moves have happened on the weekend. At least they did in 2017, 2018.
Yeah. And
then a lot of moves happen at our nighttime, which is probably like early Asia time.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a sweet spot of when you're going to get huge volatility.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. We saw that in 2013, 17, 2014 was when we did the year around the world. And like, I don't know how this happened, but thankfully I was awake for most of the big, like either panics for shorts or capitulation. Like I got really lucky that year. But one thing I noticed is like, if you're at a key inflection zone, you kind of need to be aware of when Asia wakes up. You know, if you're in the middle of nowhere or if a trend's intact, it doesn't matter so much. But if like, say you're in a bear market and there's like bad news that week and you're testing support, you know, kind of set an alarm for when Asia's checking in, you know, because that's when they like to dump.
That's a good point, because it's, I mean, just if you look at something like Interactive Brokers or TradeStation or NinjaTrader, any of these futures platforms.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of tools that you have for orders and order entry and automation and all sorts of different ways to execute things, whether or not you're there or not.
Yeah.
It's super sophisticated.
Want some more?
Fill me up, bro.
Nice.
And in crypto, there's, I mean, maybe there are tools, like third-party tools that hook into the APIs, but most of the trading is done manually.
Yeah.
I mean, you go in and unless you have limit orders, you're buying it. And I think that probably plays into a lot of, like, I would imagine in the last 48 hours, a vast majority of these DeFi pumps are people sitting there, like market buying, smashing the button as hard as they can, smash the like button. And they're just like smashing the button and just driving it up. I don't think that that's algorithmic. I think that that's literally people sitting there just buying it on the market.
I am, dude. Okay. So what was it last year? But like 2018, 19, you know, we talked about how like things in crypto were tough. Everybody was talking shit again, whatever. This year, I'm more excited than ever, not just because price is going up. That's always fun. Yay, whatever. What I'm more excited about is the DEXs, and for more than one reason. A, you know, giving people control, but B, it's another level of inefficiency. Like you were saying, like NinjaTrader, TradeStation, you got all these guys that aren't even pros, but they're coders, and they're building like legit, not HFT stuff, but like algorithmic trading stuff. Where on like Uniswap right now, Jesus, have you seen this this platform? Like it is crazy basic. It's and so there's going to be a lot of room for opportunity there. Through this first wave, I haven't traded much. I've just been learning the platform, you know, watching what moons and what dies. Like I don't have to be first to the party, but over the next, I'd say like 1 to 3 years, I think there's going to be a massive opportunity to trade on those platforms.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I think what a lot of people, what happened with DeFi, and I'm guilty of this, is that for a while I broke my own rules. And my number one rule for making money, and it has been since 2010, is that anytime I see a group of people making money and there's limited steps required to go make that money, or they're making a shitload of money pretty easily, either one of those two things, there's a huge business opportunity there. That's how I got in the app business. That's how I got into Amazon. That's how I built websites, everything. And when I saw crypto, it was the same thing. I said, all you have to do is go buy this on an exchange and then you'll make money. And everybody was like, that's one step that's unheard of in the business world, business opportunity world. And so with DeFi, what I think happened is that everyone heard about this yield farming thing. And I know for myself, I was like, the fuck's this? What does this even mean?
Yam, pickle?
Yeah, like what is this? And I saw the yields like 1800 APR, and then I slowly started to be like, okay, what's the deal? And then I looked into how they were doing it, and it was so complicated. And I was like, I don't want to learn how to do this. This seems super sketchy. But what I failed to recognize was that at the end of the day, what mattered is that there were a lot of people making money. Because even if I wasn't going to go sit down and do all this, if you tell somebody, if you do these 4 things, you will make money and you'll make an unlimited amount of money, there are millions of people that will drop everything in their life, and they will do that 24 hours a day until they make money, especially on the internet.
Yeah.
And that, I think, was such a huge red herring that I just was like, this is stupid. Like, what is this going to be? And I think that looking ahead along the same lines with like the way these DEXs are working, with all the market making ability and liquidity mining and what they're doing with all this stuff, there's going to be another round where people are going to be on Twitter. And so anybody listening or watching this, like if you want a sign of when to get serious about the next 50X thing.
Wait, take a deep pause.
Yeah. It's
Take a deep pause.
take a deep
Everybody
pause.
listening? All right.
Is when you start to see people on Twitter or in your Slack group or in Discord telling you that they made money in a way that's not buy low, sell high. They made it through some other mechanism,
Yeah.
whether it's an ICO, that was 2017. Then you've got a bit of, trading and like fund stuff in 2018, 2019, but there wasn't a whole lot of opportunities. And in 2020, you got the yield farming, where I'm sure all of us saw people who were like, I'm making all this money, but you're just like, I don't get it. This is stupid. I don't believe it, whatever. As soon as you start to see people making money, doing something that you think is ridiculous,
Yeah.
that should be your absolute sign to stop everything you're doing and figure out what they're doing, because the chances are there's a line of hundreds of people behind you that are all going to write it off. And that's always when the biggest money is made, like every time.
So I guess the challenge is though, and I agree with you. Yeah. So you see something, everybody thinks it's dumb. That's when you do it. It's when everybody's bought in that's too late. So the question that I'm always asking myself is like, how early am I really? Right? Like, am I jumping the gun and I am an early adopter, or is this a thing that's going to get arbitraged away super quickly and I'm going to lose all my money? Right. So like like with the yield farming stuff too, I was like, I think this is kind of dumb and unsustainable, but I don't want to write it off. So my framework is like, I don't have to be the first to the party, and I know there's going to be waves. So let me let this first wave implode. Let the super early people make and lose money, right? Some people are going to make enough money that they can retire or do whatever they want. Some people are going to lose everything and say, fuck crypto, I'm out of here. This is a scam. But what survives out of that is usually that second wave. Because like for me, I heard of Bitcoin in 2011. I thought it was a penny stock. I pulled it up. I'm like, wait a minute. Does this trade on the TSX or the pink sheets? Like, what the fuck is this scam? It's going to go away. Oh man, that was a mistake. But the second wave was 2013. And that's where I was like, in the spring of 2013, the first bubble happened. And I'm like, okay, there's absolutely something here. Everybody still thinks it's dumb, but it didn't die in 2011 or 12. It's still here.
Right.
So with the yield, I don't know, man. What do you think is going to be the future of the yield farming or the DeFi? Maybe we can transition into that, because I know you've been studying that stuff a lot.
Yeah, that's what I think about. I mean, that and like risk management, the two things I think about in crypto. But I think that that's right on. And I think that a lot of people are not giving the Yearn meme the credit it may deserve. I think that this whole idea of what Yearn did with the whole governance token, it looks so ridiculous, but essentially what they did is they turned, so all these yield farmers are farming on 500 different farms, getting different APRs, doing whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
And then you have someone like Yearn, which essentially aggregates liquidity tokens, and then it allocates that liquidity to the most efficient farms that are within the strategies that are written. So the team behind it, a couple of guys, Andre and a few other people, will upload new strategies. It gets voted on by YFI owners or holders, and those strategies go into effect. And so Yearn Governance Vault today is going to allocate all liquidity pool tokens into this strategy, which is going to yield us whatever it may be, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And that is a very valuable tool. Like, I don't know if it's going to be Yearn itself, because, if I don't know how decentralized it is. I feel like they've got some of the founders, if they just wanted to steal stuff or exit,
rug pull,
probably, it's not too decentralized, but something about that idea where all of these yield farmers, or just people in general, especially with ETH 2.0 coming out, you're going to have hundreds, if not thousands, of yield farms all creating decentralized liquidity, which on the decentralized exchanges can be, it can move to any token, right? Like you can be Ethereum, but you can trade it for 4 this and 10 these, and like the pools will just aggregate the liquidity and serve it up to you for what you need.
Yeah.
all that liquidity is going to have to go somewhere. And my bet would be, as we know it right now, the most valuable use case of liquidity is markets. And so I think that you're going to see people start to create new markets that use a lot of this liquidity for something. Mm-hmm. And I think that I was super interested in these betting markets over this past week, because not only were a lot of people using it, a lot of people checking it out, I was like, there's people making money on, like, this is a valuable thing. And I think that you're going to start to see these markets pop up that track things that people are like, I never even thought that this could be like, what's the traffic in LA today?
Yeah.
You know, and like you bet, like there's a market that you can trade against.
So basically stuff like this, if we just look at like FTX, this was so wild, right? Like looking at the election markets.
Right.
So let's zoom out to like an hourly chart for anybody that, wait, is this the right one? Let's go back here. So if we look at the, let's do an hourly, because this is where the capitulation happened. For anybody that wasn't watching this, basically what happened is, you know, what was this? The third or the night of the third, it was looking like Trump was going to win. And then so the Trump lose markets and the Trump win markets were obviously inverted. So lose was going down. And then it was like the next day, it's like, no, Biden's going to win. So is this what you mean? Like you see potential markets for this, but on a lot of weird stuff?
That's right. And so like the idea is that people use this and then they would post, FTX is this great feature where you can, you know, one click of a button, it gives you a shareable image where it shows like your P&L, how much you made or whatever. And so this idea of betting on election markets, it used to be Predicted kind of pioneered it with a few others. Yeah. But it used to be basically what a bookie's done, where there's odds, you put the money in and, you know, are you going to take the odds? And I think that you're going to see a lot of the things that people bet on, instead of being Vegas type betting, it's going to become a marketplace. It's going to become a market where there's liquidity, where in real time, if you're betting Steelers versus the Packers, instead of it being like, here's the over-under can be dynamic, where you're betting on, is the over-under going to go down? Is it going to go up? And you're betting with the game. Like you're not just betting if it's 54. It can be 52 at the beginning of the game, and it can go down to 44, then it can go up to 60. Yeah. And you're trading against the score of the game. Like that's one example. But what I think you're going to see this huge opening of these markets being built. And then you could start to get, you know, kind of next layer where you go to something like Chainlink, or any Oracle, which could take any data feed anywhere. And, you know, like how much wine is being produced in California this month. And nobody knows right now because there's no liquidity. There's no futures market because like there's not enough people betting on that. But if you could get the data feed that into Uniswap, or Chainlink puts it into a Synthetics feed and Synthetics puts it on the Ethereum blockchain, that now is on a decentralized exchange. You can get the liquidity out of these yield farming pools. And all of a sudden, anything that has a data feed that's like a objective data, you can create one of these on. And you can make a living trading like that. I mean, they're
wine futures.
Yeah, like wine futures or fucking whatever you want,
dude.
Yeah, like, and so
like water. Yeah. What would be so speculation is one use case for that. Right. But what's another use case that would actually make that more of a deep, viable market, like hedging and stuff like that? Or like, do you even need that? Could it be just pure speculation?
Well, I think it can be a little bit of, I mean, it depends on what the market is, because like, if it's just a price index or if it's just a measurement index, it's hard to build any sort of like long-term value in it. Like the way a stock market, you know, it's the aggregation of earnings and, you know, all these companies or whatever else may be. But I think that what I would say is that if you have these markets built and they're deep enough liquidity where you can move some real money, not only do you make money, but because everything is on the blockchain, you now have the ability to let people like work with your P&L. So, I mean, eToro kind of loosely does this, where you can copy trade people, but you're still using your own money. Yeah. Whereas with this, it's like you're seeing how much they make, and then you your token gets you rights to their profit and loss statement. So
it's like a social coin that gets you access to somebody, like a portion of the trading profits.
That's right.
So it's kind of like the venture model where you're not just an LP. Yeah, I don't know. That is strange. That's next level.
It's like I talk to these hedge fund guys, these VC guys, and they're struggling to, like, their biggest concerns is always fundraising and then finding investment opportunities. It's kind of like those are the two big things.
Yeah.
But I talked to them, I'm like, if you could do this on your own, and you could trade any market, like not the asset classes that we have, like anything you can think of, like what are you a specialist in, or what could you be a specialist in that has a legit price index or something that, weather patterns or whatever, like who knows? You could go get a social coin, you could mint 1 million coins, and each of those coins, like you would determine what your treasury is, you would determine what your expense ratio is if you had one, or if you what like maybe the treasury is like your whole upside, and then all the money you made off of those markets, being a specialist on that alpha, the money would be made in Ethereum or who knows what token would be, and then that token would be immediately decentralized into value into your token. So your token price would go up the more money you make, and it would go down as your P&L goes down.
Yeah.
And then you could go and you could invest in some startups in Silicon Valley. You could invest in the S&P 500. You could trade fucking farmland in Kansas. Like you could trade anything that has a market. And all of a sudden I could then also find these specialists all over the world and go to them and say, I know you are the dairy specialist of the Southwest. And I know that there's a market for that, and that you are going to make more money on that than I'll make investing in index funds.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go buy 500 of their tokens.
Dude, you know what I love about that is, like, it does open up, like you said, a whole level of like specialists. Like people can, it creates new jobs, it creates new opportunities where people are like, yo, there hasn't ever been a profit motive to go figure out the wine flow in a certain way or this. And it also gives people an opportunity, if the regulations allow, which the SEC's been moving in the right direction, at least recently, with, like making some changes to Reg D and Reg CF and offering more ways to become an accredited investor. But if you could get the smaller investor in funds where they actually are tracking, like, hey, that's my wine guy, that's my weather pattern guy, that's that guy.
Yeah.
Like, that would be dope, dude. And obviously it's high risk and a lot of people would lose a lot of money in it. But for people that wanted to be more active or find a competitive edge and alpha, like, man, dude. And it's so huge. It's like, if you are the wine guy, but say you have limited capital, all of a sudden you put that expertise to work and you've got 50 million or 100 million AUM now.
Right. Exactly. Like you're as good as your alpha, and then you're as good as your competitors. And all of a sudden it becomes kind of like a hedge fund. And, then the market will become saturated, and, you'll see how it works out. But I think that there's something to this. Like it can obviously, in the final version, will look a certain way. But the path between here and there is when you're going to see a bubble form. You're going to see something happen where, like, there's this one guy I follow who's got a newsletter, and you have to buy his social token to read his premium blog posts. And it's like $1 for token. You have to buy 20 of them, or I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is so brilliant. And you put them in MetaMask, and there's services where if it sees your balance, and if your balance is a certain amount, it unlocks the blog post. I'm like, okay, like there's something going on here.
Yeah.
Where this person has figured out how to monetize attention, which is the thing that nobody's been able to figure out. And the whole advertising world, which in my opinion, like the internet is essentially just a huge liquidity pool for attention. Like that's what advertising did. That's what the internet is. It's connected by ads. And that's been the problem, is that attention has just gone. That's where all the money goes. But all of a sudden, if you have the ability to take tokens and disrupt this need for advertising, or at least for monetization of attention, you can now get people's attention, and they will give you money, and they will get value as you produce value. Now, the problem has been, as an influencer, just because you're popular doesn't mean your value is going to accrue. Like people tried it on professional athletes, but like it didn't really work out the way that they wanted to.
Yeah.
But now with this sort of thing, if you can hook in with somebody who's generating real money on something and you're getting a profit share, like that's where the money comes from.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden it's an actual business model. It's a real use case. It's no longer, oh, I'm gonna get your income for the next 25 years and we'll see how well you do. It's like, if you're making money, I just want a piece of that.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh man. This is what I love about crypto is like the opportunities and the ideas are endless. Unfortunately, a lot of people look at that from the outside and like you said, like they just scream scam. And yeah, a lot of it is, right? A lot of it's bullshit, but the stuff that survives long-term and the stuff that actually opens new opportunities like this, like it's going to be massive.
It's going to be massive. And it's also, I mean, how are these investment companies like hedge funds and private equity companies, like how are they going to keep doing what they're doing for the next 40 years if interest rates stay at zero and there's only one alpha trade going long domestic stocks?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously that's going to change. The world changes, but eventually this money management business, people are going to start to be like, there's got to be something new. There has to be new opportunities. And I believe that it's going to come through crypto some way. Something's going to happen. Maybe it's VC first, who knows? But I really think that you're going to start to see people. And so for anybody listening, watching, whatever, keep your eye out where you start to see people when they start to say, oh, I'm going to do this social token, or I'm going to start betting on this new market I saw. And like, I made this money on this market. Like keep your eye out for that. Mm-hmm. And if you see someone who's a nasty trader, say, hey, why don't you go set up a social token? Like send it to them. Say you're trading on FTX or any of these platforms. Like, why don't you get a social token and start looking into this? Because they're going to be the people that evangelize it and make it really popular. And if you can get some of their tokens early before people know what the pricing model should look like, you can make a shitload of money.
Dude, yeah.
Some of these people who are specialists, like imagine going to a scientist and be like, hey, how would you like to use your knowledge on forestry in Idaho and make a couple $1 million? Like I can show you how to do this. Like just tell me what the trends are for the bug migration and in Idaho, right?
Yeah.
Like let's make a market.
It gets weird.
You're the guy.
Yeah.
And here's the token model. And like, obviously this is years and years away, but I really think that that's where it's going. That's what, like that's why this whole DeFi thing with liquidity is so interesting to me, because it kind of created this bond market where you have asset prices versus yields, and the trade-off was super, super weird. Like it never really made sense, but there's something to it.
Yeah.
Of the risk reward of that. But the whole point of the bond market is to create debt for credit. Now we got to put the credit somewhere. We got to put that liquidity somewhere. It's not going anywhere. All this liquidity pool tokens are just sitting in these it's just for trading right now.
Yeah.
Imagine if it could go into actual value creation.
I guess that is the thing with all the new money creation and all this stimulus that's coming out. There is a lot of money chasing a lot of assets, and people are looking to, like, with more people waking up to financial freedom and financial education, it's like more people want to do something with their capital, right? And they want to find returns. And I think, with all this exciting stuff, kind of a complete 180, and a mistake that I think a lot of crypto people make is they write off the stock market altogether because of the Fed and all this stuff. It's like, but do you understand what the stock market is? Like, you're owning a piece of the biggest, most profitable, badass companies on the planet. Why wouldn't you want a piece of that pie? Fuck what the Fed does. Of course they're going to do what they can to mess, call it manipulation, whatever. I still want to own a piece of Apple and whatever. Like, and if you can use strategy to get good prices, you're going to turn this amount of money into this amount of money, right?
And like, dude, I love the Fed. I mean,
wait, what? Hang on. Kevin, cut the stream, bro.
Keep it burning down my head.
Okay, we got to clip that. That's going to be a meme.
It's like imagine telling me, okay, you're gonna invest in the best companies imaginable, and by the way, you have a guaranteed backstop. Like your risk is, I mean, you're gonna have a drawdown here and there, but like we'll come in and print money for you.
Yeah.
And buy. I'm like,
who wouldn't want a plunge protection team behind him? Come on.
I don't want a free market. I want an up market. That's all I want. I just want to go up.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, let's do that. I mean, I'm being facetious, but it is one of those things where, if don't fight powerful institutions. Align yourself with powerful institutions and capitalize on what their incentives are.
Yeah.
And if you want to make money, I mean, yeah, you can have ethical concerns about debt and printing. I mean, I get that.
For sure. Yeah, that's a huge issue. But like you said, do you want to make money? Do you want to be an investor? If you want to be a martyr and you want to die on the stake that you're, screaming on Twitter, fine.
Yeah.
I want to make money everywhere, right? I want to be an entrepreneur and generate cash. I want to make money on the backs of the biggest companies in the world. I want to be on the bleeding edge of crypto. Hell, I want to hold gold. I want to hold real estate. I want to be in everything because I find it super interesting. And the only thing I don't want to be in is like super unethical stuff that like scams people, right?
Sure, yeah.
Like all these crypto, like ICOs and all that shit. Like, maybe I'll trade it, take a swing trade or a quick trade, but I'm not going to invest it. And that's why I'm very hesitant to talk about altcoins on my channel. And that's another reason why I almost stopped doing YouTube altogether, is there's this whole new wave of crypto people on YouTube that are just promoting all these blatant scams. And I don't know, I'm conflicted there. What are your thoughts on that? I know you've probably thought about that.
About
just like all the, the scams and just the bad side of this space, right? Because there's the exciting side, there's the good development side, but then there are a lot of scams. There's a lot of bad people in this space.
I don't know. I tend to be pretty like everyone can make up their own mind about things, like kind of libertarian about individual rights. At the same time, I think it's one of those things where you're never going to get rid of it. Where there's easy money to be, or seemingly easy money to be made, especially life-changing amounts of money, you're going to attract that no matter what. And I think that trying to build a system without that is virtually impossible. It's just cost of doing business in a situation like crypto. And I think that the best thing to do is like what you're doing, create great educations, create great communities, and just say, listen, I'm one of the good guys here. I'm trying to help people.
Yeah.
Here's what's really going on. But I mean, the funny thing is when I've met these people, I'll go places and I'll meet them in real life.
Who, the scammers?
Like scammers, but people on the YouTube channel. And I'm like, I've seen some of the stuff you do. And I don't think less of them. I'm just like, okay, what's the deal? And they're usually pretty nice people.
Yeah.
I think that they want to make money so bad. They'll do what they have to do. They see that they can build an audience very quickly on crypto, and they're like, oh man, if I can get a YouTube channel going, I can get some advertising, or, I can finally make some money.
Yeah.
And
I don't want to ever shit on anybody for trying to make money or for trying to build a business or build a name for themselves. Like the thing that gets me and where I'm conflicted is when I see the guys that are out there like getting paid a shit ton of money to like shill something like that rubs me the wrong way. And then also the guys that are real hypey, like, you got to buy this next coin. It's going 10,000%. And I'm like, you don't have any fucking clue what you're talking about.
Yeah,
dude. I don't know. I'm conflicted because if I met them in person, we'd probably be friendly and I'd be like, look, man, you probably shouldn't do X, Y, and Z, but I get it. You're trying to make a money from ad revenue or whatever. You saw the guys before you that made a lot of money. Now you're trying to do the same thing. Just try to do it ethically, I guess. I don't know, man. It's
tough.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah, I think it's tough because it works. Like that's the hardest part is like if they were doing it and everybody was saying, dude, get the fuck out of here. You don't, shut up, which I would say 60% of people are like, they know.
People are getting wiser to the scams. Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, the idea of getting rich quick, that's never going to stop. And the snake oil salesman will always be around. And, in the world we live in, I mean, I can't say this enough. It is insane that you can, how few steps are required to seemingly get this amount of money, right? Like you get a brokerage account or Coinbase or Kraken or Gemini or whoever you use. You buy a few coins, you wait, you press a few buttons, and all of a sudden you just made 3 years worth of salary.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy, right?
That's what everybody thinks happens.
Right. And that's the pitch.
Yeah.
And there's all these testimonials and like, oh, it happened to me and it could happen to you. And whereas in all these other businesses, it's like, well, you got to build a business. You got to build this, you got to build a piece of software. You got to do these things. And then it might be easy, but there's still like a barrier to entry where, I mean, on online courses, when you have to learn stuff, it's, probably you can sell 1,000 courses. Maybe 20% of people will finish them. When it's like, well, you got to build this and you got to do this. And there's all these steps of work. But in crypto, you're going to get 90% of people be like, hey, go buy this coin. Everybody will listen to what you said because it's one fucking button. Like, of course I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And
that creates like that's the ultimate sales pitch. I mean, it's unparalleled.
Go press this button, make a lot of money. And that's why I like to talk about like the reality of what the markets actually are. You're stepping into a competition. It's like, you're not going to go into the UFC ring if you haven't trained before, right? Why do you think you're going to go into the financial markets with no training, no skill development process, and think you're going to take somebody else's money? Right. Because even in a positive sum game, which I think crypto and the stock market is, the futures, you can make an argument either way, but even though it's positive sum, meaning money's coming in and you don't necessarily have to take $1 to earn $1, it's competitive as hell. And like, there's people that know what they're doing. And if you come in and you think you're going to get rich quick, yes, you might get lucky. A lot of people have gotten really lucky, but today things are different than they were in 2013 to 15 or even 16, right? You have to be disciplined. You can't do the shotgun approach and just buy a bunch of shit coins and hope they moon.
Well, I think you can, but what's going to happen is what happened to DeFi, where you're going to sit on these bags for I don't know, it was like September 1st was when it popped. So I don't know how long it's been, but when it goes down 80%, how are you going to wake up every day and be like, I don't care. Like, of course I'm holding on to this.
Yeah.
And I think until you've gone through the process of learning about what this is, believing in the assets you own, thinking, like understanding like being able to visualize a future of what this is going to look like, it's almost impossible to hold all the way.
Yeah.
And I mean, how many people have we met that have watched their wealth go fucking down, like huge amounts of money go down 80%. They're just like, I don't care. Like,
yeah,
whatever. I believe in this.
Yeah.
And
that's what it takes.
That's what it takes.
Yeah.
And I think that the idea of buying the bottom and selling the top, if you buy the bottom, like you're not going to have the stones to hold it to the top. And I'm not saying that for any sort of like holier than thou. I'm saying that from experience. Like, I've had amazing purchases on stocks, on crypto, whatever, but I know myself. I'm like, I don't have the conviction that some of these guys have to watch them lose the amount of money they lost. Like, I can't do that.
Yeah.
And I think that goes a long way, which a lot of times I tell people, all you have to do is just hold Bitcoin and Ethereum for like 5 years. And if you want to become a trader, you can become a trader, but just buy some crypto, forget about it. And the chances are you're probably going to make a lot more money doing that than you will trying to time anything, like selling it now, buying it back, moving these stacks of money around. That's so hard to do. It's a full-time job. And like, it's just, if you believe in what Bitcoin is, if you believe in what Ethereum is, and I think we both agree, at least, especially with Bitcoin, maybe with Ethereum, like they're going to go up. In 5 years from now, I would be shocked if these assets are not higher. And because of that, like, I'm going to let it ride.
Yeah. You know, so there's the level of uncertainty too, right? Like anything can happen. We have a high level, I would say, like, I have a high level of conviction, but I still don't know for sure.
Totally.
Right? I'm always looking for competitors that could knock Bitcoin off. You know, the chance of that is very, very small. But that's why I think you don't have to be all in or all out or a specific strategy. That's why I like to do it all. I want to have my HODL, my cold storage. I want to have my swing trades. I want to have my opportunistic trades for, you know, like in March when the market panicked by 50% in less than 2 days. That's when you buy. When it feels the shittiest to buy. When you look at yourself in the mirror and you go, am I insane for buying? That's the best damn time to buy, right? But like, again, I say the same thing over and over, and I get comments all the time like, oh, Chris, all you do is say buy low, sell high. Well, yeah, it's because nobody fucking does it. No. Like, no matter how many times I say it, and I try to like teach it in different ways and talk about the mindset of like what it takes to actually do it. It's just so hard.
I think, you know, for anybody right now who's watching this or listening and they're sitting on a pile of crypto and they're like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Like, I just got this relief bounce in these altcoins. Ethereum looks like it's going to break out. Bitcoin's pushing up to 16,000, very close to 20,000. And for people who are sitting there watching this, wondering like, what do I do? The question I say is, why not do nothing? Like, why do you need to do something? Do you believe in what you're holding? Like, do you think that this is an appreciating asset?
Yeah.
Long term? If the answer is yes, why do you need to do something? And if the answer is because you got too much invested, well, you should sell it as soon as you can.
Yeah.
And just like get down to your, like when reminiscence from a stock operator is like, sell down to your sleep level or whatever he says.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, you should be able to feel that way in the morning. But that's what I try to tell people is like, why do you need to do something? Like, yes, there's euphoria. Yes, there's bull market. Like, time is what makes things valuable. Time is what makes people millionaires. Like, that is the thing you need the most. Why are you trying to stop the timer on your investments?
Yeah.
Like, never stop the timer if you can help it. Like, if you're a trader, yeah, okay, that's different. But if you have these things, like, never turn off the timer. Time turns things turns energy into money. That's what it does. Especially,
like, crypto is a different beast because it's like in Bitcoin, you have a finite asset, verifiably finite, scarce asset with increasing demand. There hasn't been anything like that before. Gold is somewhat scarce, but we don't know how much is there. And the demand goes up and down. You know, if the demand side stays there with Bitcoin, that's where the stock to flow plays out over the next several decades, right?
That's a question I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
All right. So let's say Bitcoin's at 200,000. And let's say your buddy decides he wants to buy some Bitcoin. And he logs into his Coinbase account. Why would somebody buy like 0.002 Bitcoin as an investment versus buying like 6 of something else? And what I mean by this is, like, I don't know if we've ever seen investments test the law of large numbers, because there's something about human psychology. Like, I don't know, I could be completely wrong on this, but it seems like there has to be a point at which the price becomes less attractive retail and more attractive to institutional money, because, you know, like, okay, 60,000 of Bitcoin, all right, we can move that kind of money. There's liquidity there.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's going to be a thing where it becomes a Berkshire Hathaway, where it's just like, why would I ever buy a share of $375,000 stock?
Yeah. And that's where I think the unit of account thing comes in, because like it's divisible by what, 100 million, is it?
Yeah. Nine digits.
Yeah. 8 or 9, whatever.
Yeah.
So it's weird. It's like, what is a Bitcoin, right? It's like, it's that many zeros or whatever. It's like that's where I start to think about like future possibilities and what does that really mean? And like, if it did get to 200,000, would you still want those dollars? like it's the way that I look at crypto is like things move slowly and then all at once kind of thing. Like the snowball has started and it's starting to speed up. But maybe I haven't thought that far ahead about like the average guy 10 years from now or whatever, when it is 6 figures or more. What does that look like for that person? It's probably the same mentality as somebody that nods their head when their investment advisor says, yeah, just put all your money in low fee index funds. Well, they don't have a better option.
Yeah. Like I guess that's a good example is like today, if you were going to go long the stock market, would you feel the same about buying the Dow Jones ETF, or would you buy one share of Berkshire Hathaway for $400,000?
Or what is it, .B?
The preferred shares.
Was it 200 or 300? Yeah.
It's like the same idea of how the fuck is this a good investment if it's $400,000?
Right,
like,
right.
How is this, I don't care if I get 0.003 of it. It's like, I want something that has the potential to go, because we've just never seen anything become. And so I guess, yeah, like similar to what you said, like no one's ever experienced that.
Yeah.
How does it, for it to go from 100,000 to let's say 1 million, which is like what stock of flow and all these things say, like you actually have to have people sit there and decide, I will buy a Bitcoin for $700,000.
Yeah. I mean, no, it's true, but that's also where people get scammed is they buy into the price anchor fallacy.
Yeah, totally.
Where they go like in 2000, it was the spring of 17, I think. I'm like 3 whiskeys in now, so Ethereum, Ripple was at 30 cents. We bought the breakout. Sure enough, we're taking a profit at $1, $2, $3 ish comes along, and somebody messaged me, Chris, CNBC is talking about how to buy Ripple on CNBC. I'm like, no fucking way. So we log on, how to buy Ripple. And then they showed Bitcoin was X price, Ripple was X price. So what does mom and pop investor do? Oh, of course I'm going to buy that. Price anchor fallacy, right? Then they did the, everybody knows the story, but.
That's a good point, because I mean, I was in San Francisco. I'd been buying Bitcoin from 2013, like just to have it, because that's what people were doing in San Francisco. 2016, I talked to some people and they're like, oh, you should go check out, this Ethereum thing. And I logged into Coinbase and all of a sudden they had listed it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Some more? Yeah.
And I log in and I'm like, dude, I could buy a Bitcoin for $700. Or, because I've been buying Bitcoin at like $100 back in 2013, and it already on at 700. And I remember buying Ethereum, and I was like, dude, this is like $9, $8. It's like, if this is $8 and that already went to 700 from 100, like obviously this one's going to do the same thing. Yeah. I didn't know shit about smart contracts, ICOs. I mean, I knew like a little bit, but not enough to make a decision about. I just was like, dude, if that did that, of course this is going to do that. Yeah. And very irresponsibly, I like bought a ton of it, and I was just like, of course, like obviously this is going to happen. And I think a lot of people did the same thing with Litecoin and I think Ethereum to a certain extent.
And that's why we had the bubble we did.
Yeah.
Right.
Because like the cheaper, like Tron was like Virgin and all that stuff. And so I wonder about that. What happened? Like who's buying at $100,000? I do think the ETFs will make a massive difference, because that will be priced accordingly.
Okay, so to answer your question, who's buying up there? If and when we get there, governments, central banks, corporations, like we saw MicroStrategy, when it becomes irresponsible not to have it, right? I think
it's like institutions, sovereign wealth, things like that.
Yeah, because the first 10 years was driven by retail, right? Like Raul says, like Bitcoin's the first asset in the world where retail got a jump on institution. When institution comes in, I don't know what that looks like, right? I don't know. I mean, I think a lot about this. Like I'll go for walks and think about this shit for hours, just like, okay, well, if that government does this and then this guy does this, oh yeah, that's where that could happen. And then how much liquidity is that? And then I do the numbers and I'm like, no,
right.
But then to your question about like, well, what does the individual do? Do I buy that? Well, yeah, I think so, because then at that point it's kind of like buying treasuries, right? Like I own treasuries. Do I think they're a good investment? I don't know. I could argue both sides, right?
Yeah, I think I think that like the growth curve is going to flatten as the price goes up.
Yeah,
and that's fine. Like the percentages may go down, but the numbers may be huge still.
Yeah,
and I think that you're just going to get more and more derivatives down to the retail level. The same way, if you look at something like the NASDAQ, like as an index, trades at 12,000. I mean, that's not at $12,000. That's just a number, but the QQQs is priced at like 270. And so that makes sense. And then people trade the cents of the Qs, or they trade the futures market. And so I think as things get bigger, they're just going to create smaller products.
Yeah.
That are like, the Bitcoin mini fund, or, Bitcoin medium, or whatever. And each one's got different pieces to it, or like baskets of cryptos or whatever it may be. And they can, when they promote or launch them, they just decide, hey, let's just make this $50 or whatever the SEC says is okay. And I think that it seems like it'll be more of a realistic path forward. And then the top will just be bought by, the people that want to own the.
Yeah, because what is a Bitcoin, right? It's a percentage of the network, right? The percentage of the supply, right? But one Bitcoin, like I remember I did a video when the price of Bitcoin exceeded the price of 1 ounce of gold. And I was talking about that. I'm like, well, what does that even mean? Right. It's like, okay, cool. Like, people think of a Bitcoin, they think of a coin, and they, I've got a bunch of ounces of gold, right? You compare them, okay, they're equal price, but really 100,000 Satoshis could be a sizable investment, right? And maybe we come up with a name for that. That's like, wow, bro, you got 100,000 stats. Like, damn, and then no, the full Bitcoins, those are reserved for the really wealthy people, right? Maybe that's how the social construct evolves over time.
Well, I think one of the trends in financial history in the U.S. at least is that all the greatest expansions of markets and wealth came from repackaging of value. So, I mean, I think the best example is in 1981 or whatever, when they figured out that they could securitize assets. Like they could create ETFs, they could create bond products, like they could create different sort of mortgage-backed securities. They could create all these things that these bond traders could just like package up for $2 billion and sell a tranche to a bank and say, here's what the value is, here's what the expected return is, here's what the yield is, boom, and they just get the cuts on that. And they didn't actually do anything. They just took what's already in the world and added new wrappers to them. And then same thing happened to a certain extent in the internet in the late 90s with the internet, where you're just wrapping websites on all sorts of shit and people are packaging it up and selling it. And then real estate, we all know what happened there. And I feel like that may happen with crypto from a financial standpoint. So when you look at a lot of the firms out there, the banks, especially the Goldman Sachs, the Morgan Stanleys, once the asset class gets big enough and there's enough like legitimate assets, they could go to town. Exactly what you said. Here's a Bitcoin ETF. Here's a 100 sat ETF or product, or here's a tranche of whatever the coins are, everything, kind of like what Grayscale's doing, but more of a
retail facing.
Yeah,
product.
Exactly. More of like an SEC approved thing. And when you do that, like, that's when you see massive explosions of money.
Yeah.
Huge amounts.
We saw that with gold even. I mean, like something as simple as when the gold ETF came out. That was the early 2000s, I think. I can't remember the exact year, but
GLD.
Yeah. Even if we look at the futures, it was basically, let me see if we do a monthly chart. It was somewhere right around, maybe it was 2004. If anybody knows, you can leave a comment. I haven't really been paying attention to chat, but if anybody knows, Kevin, maybe you can tell me. I think somewhere in here is where the ETF came out. And then, that's where you get that explosion. It's like when you open up derivatives, is it a good thing for the market? I mean,
Right.
So far, looks like
Looks
it.
like it.
Yeah.
This is if you go to the weekly chart on gold futures. So I was looking at this earlier. If you go back to the 70s, the first big bull run.
Oh. Yeah, right here.
Yeah. So like, fractals obviously are not really tradable setups, but if you want to think about what this, like how the Bitcoin market could play out.
Yeah.
So if you scroll forward a little bit. Yeah. And zoom out. There you go. It's like, this could be exactly this is basically what's happening right now for Bitcoin.
Oh yeah.
Like right here. Like we're kind of
right here. Yeah.
Yeah. Right above that.
So it's like, this is the 17 high.
That was 17 high.
Yeah.
Like this, in my opinion, is, if I was thinking, while I think about Bitcoin, this is basically the model I have in my head. Like, who knows if it's going to work?
Right. Well, I mean, it's played out before, right? It was like 2011, there was a little one of these. 2013, there was two bubbles. 17. So yeah, that's where that stock to flow pattern kind of plays out, right?
Which would lead us to anywhere between 30 and 35 is, I would say, is the next big top. Where I think when we break all-time highs, when we break 20, we're going to see a lot of people start to get interested in this again.
Yeah.
We're going to see a huge retail, and everybody's going to be like, holy shit, this is back, you know?
Yeah. So if we break 20, what is your prediction?
I think 30 to 35 is going to be a blow off. And then you're going to see consolidation. And then after that, it's everyone's best guess. Like,
so do you think it's going to be like a full bubble cycle after 35?
No.
Or you think that'll just be like a pullback?
It'll be like this. It'll be like 3 years of consolidating down to 20 again.
Oh, it'll be like the most recent.
Yeah, and then like 20 will end up.
Like, basically, in my opinion, this was like a healthy like fib retracement, right?
Yeah.
Like if you look at that came right to my sweet spot that we were talking about earlier, right? That's why I was actually buying gold the past 5 years.
I would say that there's very low probability that we'll see a sustained drawdown before 30,000 at this point.
Yeah.
I think that we'll go there. And then when we get to that level, we'll have sucked in enough money that we need to cool it off. It'll go back down to support, and then it'll probably just launch again. I mean,
yeah,
I don't think we'll go into a big, deep bear market.
I agree with you. The hard thing for me to wrap my head around is timing. So gold is a lot slower, right? Gold's old as hell. It's been money for over 5,000 years. It's been commoditized and had financial like derivative markets only for a decade or two. Bitcoin is different in that, for all the reasons we know, right? I think the time scale could be a lot quicker.
Yeah.
I think we could get to 150. I think we could get there maybe by the next halving, but a lot has to go right.
Is that 2022?
Yeah. What year? No, 2024. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Every election year. That's right.
Yeah. I've talked about this a few times, but, and again, this isn't like a price prediction that you should trade on. Like, this isn't financial advice, but if the world keeps going the way that I see it, and if Bitcoin demand side stays intact, 150 is my next major level.
Yeah.
I'll trade along the way. I'll take profit before then, but I think that's not out of the realm of possibility. But again, a lot has to go right. And I'm not a macro guy. Like, you probably should not listen to that, because I'm not the smartest guy when it comes to global, how governments play with each other and all that. There's a lot of people that are way smarter than me on that. But based on the conclusions I've come to, yeah, I think we'll go to, like you said, 30, 50 pause and then 150.
I think that my biggest like the reason I am not like liquidating everything, putting it all in Bitcoin, is like the biggest risk I see is the regulatory risk, which is not a death knell by any means. It's just in the United States, if they decided, hey, we're killing this, you can't own it if you're a U.S. citizen, you got to kill the exchanges. Like, that would just change the path of all of this. And I think that that's the biggest thing. Like, there's quantum computing, and if Satoshi's wallet opened up, or there's all these like weird things I don't think are going to happen. But,
Yeah.
The government regulation thing, because when it gets to be $50,000, $100,000, all of a sudden, is it a national security threat?
I think it is now.
Yeah, like, but like,
Yeah.
250 billion, $300 billion asset class. They're like, what the fuck is this thing? You know, like
Right.
they know.
But they're aware of it because they're trying to compete with it.
Yeah, I mean, Trump tweeted about it. Like they know it's
Well,
a thing.
the central bank digital currencies,
Yeah,
right?
like they know it's a thing. I think that it's not causing anybody problems. This is like a fly that they're like, you know. I'm sure. What's his face from J.P. Morgan? With the CEO.
Jamie Dimon?
Jamie Dimon. I'm sure he's like been asked about it. Hey, you know, what should we do? Like,
Yeah.
Mnuchin, I'm sure talks to them and it's like, what do you think of this? He's
Yeah.
like,
I would love to be a fly on the wall.
oh
with
my
those
God, right?
conversations.
Like he'd be amazing. So I think that he's just like, listen, it is what it is. We're building our own crypto thing, you know, blah, blah, blah. But I think if it's 100,000 and it's like their banking problem, they have
Yeah.
a banking problem now, or like they're losing money.
Carter, I have a weird thing that I've already decided. I've
What's that?
talked to Nikki about this. If the U.S. government, and I don't think I've said this on camera before, but it's on the record now. If the U.S. government straight out banned owning Bitcoin, kind of like they did in the 30s with owning gold, if they pulled one of those fucking things, I'm renouncing my citizenship. Not because I'm a hardcore Bitcoin maximalist or anything like that, but because there's a reason why they're doing that. And I think that reason would be the downfall of the
Right.
control. Like if they go to that length, something is falling apart quickly. And I'll be like, I'm getting the fuck out of here.
I mean, I'd probably be right there with you.
Yeah.
I think that if as soon as somebody starts to control how you move your money, like that is when, at least with like government level, like that's when shit gets like, what else? Like, what's a more basic level than that?
Yeah.
Other than them like monitoring your home or whatever it may be. But yeah, I think that for like what you said, the reason why would be the bigger problem.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
they're banning it because we got to get rid of this so that we can do this.
Yeah.
And that's when you're like, you know, I read 1984 and I the writings on the sort of these guys, like they get it.
Yeah. And maybe the time isn't, you know, maybe the best play isn't to wait for that to happen. Maybe the time is to, you know, have a plan B and do what, you know, Andrew Henderson and Simon Black and all those guys have been talking about for a long time.
Yeah, I mean,
have a
it's-
plan B.
It's like I say it's like 150 grand. You get a passport down in the Caribbean right now.
Yeah.
Like there's 4 of them: Grenada, St. Lucia.
Kids maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they all have these like great programs.
Yeah. And look, I love America, man. I've had a great life here.
Yeah.
Like the innovation and the opportunity we have and the comforts of life. Like the U.S. has been
It's the
great.
best, yeah.
But I don't know, man.
Well, I think that would be like a. I mean, I think the first thing will be what happens when they institute a digital currency, a federal digital currency. Maybe not here, but elsewhere other than China, where we can actually see and talk to people that are being impacted.
Yeah.
And then you start to connect the dots. And if all of a sudden, like all of our cash is like fungible cash is gone, and all of a sudden, like they're able to take taxes out with a press of a button.
Right.
Like that's when you start to be like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
You know, this is, and I think the most dangerous thing is when things work better when they're doing it. Like
When people like when they give into it, and they're like, "Oh, this is great."
Most likely, if they institute a central digital bank and like all these things, it would most likely make all of our lives a lot better and easier and more seamless and frictionless. And for the most part, a lot of our lives probably wouldn't change that much.
Yeah.
But you never know when you're gonna need that freedom until it's too late.
Yeah.
I mean, like we just read that Edward Snowden book. It's like it's a good example. Like you don't care if all the certain people are listening or watching until you care. And it's like, why do you want to live in a place where you're kind of walking on thin ice, and if you walk over that line, like what the fuck? Like this is your life.
Yeah.
You know, you should be able to do what you want.
The most dangerous situation to me is like say we get UBI and say the central bank digital currency comes out and you have a wallet and you're like, oh my God, the US government just gave me $1,200 this month. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Fed chairman or woman. This is great, right? That is when things get scary, because that's when people just plug into the system and they got you. You know, you say one wrong thing, you do one wrong thing. Wait a minute, my bank account's empty, or I can't move money, right? And there is a level to that right now, right? Like they can freeze bank accounts and stuff. But when you
with cause,
yeah, right. But if they start doing UBI and then you have that like digital wallet that they can see everything you're doing, and then they ban cash, like I can see where this is headed, right? This isn't like conspiracy theory, like out of this world shit. Like the world, I think, is going this direction. But I'm betting on Bitcoin to win long term. Governments, you know, governments are just what? Collections of people, and those people die off. They change, right? So what we know to be our government today is going to look dramatically different 20, 30, 40 years from now when we're old as fuck. I just hope we get the right, smart, moral, and capable people from our generation in power.
I think it's going to happen faster than that. I think that the next 5 years, we're going to see governments fall apart. We're going to see governments implement crazy new ideas. You know, like some of these, government runs your bank account and like decides a lot of things for you and does it in the name of public safety and COVID and all this sort of thing.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see that at least attempted a lot sooner. And I think that, sorry, I think it's similar to this year where we're living 2020 and we're like, all right, well, we're making the best of it. These changes happen in real time, and it's too difficult to fight it over and over and over. But when you wake up and you're like, wait, what freedoms do I still have?
Yeah.
You know, and okay, well, 2020, I can't really go anywhere without a mask now. Okay, well, what next year? What's the there's
encroachment?
Yeah, like there's precedent for that. What's it going to be next year?
Yeah.
Like how much farther can they go before they're telling you what you can and can't do? And whether or not you believe or like you agree or not agree, I think what we can all agree is like people deserve to have the individual choice to live their lives if they're not impacting and hurting like other people.
Yeah.
You know, like I think that the more that that happens, the more money is just like the next inevitable, because that's the ultimate power move.
Yeah.
It has to be.
I was talking to Tim Draper a few years ago, and he was talking about the idea that governments are going to start having to compete for not just capital, but for brain power and people. And that's actually what I'm excited about, because I think that'll keep governments in check. It's like if you live in a place like the US where you can travel abroad and you can move your capital around, and a government says, hey, listen, we're going to offer citizenship or a path to citizenship, and here's our regulatory framework, and we're very business friendly, and we're going to offer this, and here's our tax rates. Why wouldn't you jump over there, right? Why wouldn't you go to a place that is going to offer more freedom and more opportunity?
Right.
And then the other path is what China's doing, right? Like, I don't know.
I think that that also begs the question, what does the world look like if everybody has the ability to work from anywhere? Which we've never, like, we've had the ability to ask that question for people that read 4 Hour Work Week, you know?
Yeah.
It's like a cool laptop lifestyle. You're in the beach in Bali, cool. But now, I don't know what percentage of America is working from home or working remotely. This has never been a question. Like they have a house, they have a community, they have friends, they have education systems, but all of these institutions, all these systems are being disrupted, and people are being forced to ask new questions. And I think when you ask these new questions, they're almost memes at this point, which is like, oh, well, we need to live in this one place because our kids need continuity and they need to be at the same school all the time. And they need socialization. It's like, okay, are you sure?
Yeah.
You know, like what happens if your kid traveled the world for 3 years or got exposed to a new culture? And like, there's all these things that have just been assumed, and people that when you do them, they're very comfortable. and they become more comfortable the more you do them.
Yeah.
And they end up generating what is perceived as happiness, which I'm not saying it's not happiness, but it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And this whole year has forced everybody to ask really difficult questions.
Dude, yes.
And it's like, there are no answers. Nobody knows. There's no right or wrong about this is what we should be doing. This is what we shouldn't be doing. This is what the world should look like. But what we do know is that we're not going back. It's never going to be what it was in 2019 previous, like for the last 300 years. It's going to be different. And I think that when you start to ask new questions, I think when things like cryptocurrency enter the foray, you start to be like, wow, there's so many ways to design a life.
Yeah.
And there's so many different opportunities. And then when governments come in and they say, well, actually, here's the way that life is going to be, comes the next set of questions of like, well, is this still what I want?
Yeah.
Like, is this still in line? And some people are going to say absolutely, and they'll have a great life. And some people are going to say, no, I want something different, and they're going to have a great life.
I think the silver lining to this year, as bad as it's been for a lot of people on so many different levels, is like we will look back at this as a pivotal moment where people woke the fuck up. They're like, why was I working that job I hated that treated me like shit and paid me dog shit? Like, I'm working from home anyway. Let me find other opportunities. Why was I living in a town where everybody was just terrible to each other? Or, you know, like we're seeing the mass exodus from San Francisco. Why am I putting up with sky high prices and a government that just lets people, you know, tear the city apart? Like, people are starting to ask those questions. And I'm actually excited, man. I'm stoked for what the next couple of years offer, because the more people that wake up, I think the happier people become. I was kind of lucky. Like, I grew up in a military family, and so we lived in Korea for a couple years. I lived in Iceland for a couple years. Like, I got to experience other cultures early on. And then when I moved and I did high school in Florida, and everybody was doing that traditional path of like, yeah, I got into this school and I'm going to go live in this city and I'm going to just be there. It just didn't feel right to me. Right. And I always bucked the system, and I didn't go to college, and I like found my own way. And when I was 19, I called my dad. I was crying. I was like, Dad, I'm a fucking loser. I just dropped out of college. You know, I'm working a corporate job. I'm working hard. I think I'm going to do okay, but like, should I go in the military? What should I do? He's like, no, son, like you're on the right path. Like, you're doing what you feel like you should do. And like, I'm so grateful that I had that in my life, because a lot of people don't have that support, or like somebody telling them that's okay to do. And I don't know, maybe that's why I do these videos, is to like tell people, like, if you don't fit a certain mold, that's okay. And like, there are other ways to forge your own path.
Right. I think that's right on. I think that, like, kind of similar, kind of different. I went to a really good school, surrounded by a lot of people that were, you know, like, I know my track, and I know where I'm going to live, and I know what I'm going to do, and here's my parents. And I was always kind of like, I don't really quite get what's going on. And I left after I graduated. I was a landscaper. No, and I'd just gone to a really nice school, like Druckenmiller School, the same.
Yeah.
Like, it was a great spot, great education. And I was, you know, hucking mulch for every morning at 6 a.m. and like picking up gravel and for 12 hours a day. And it was the kind of thing, like, I didn't really know, I couldn't understand why I would go do something I hated to do. But I also knew that, like, I should be doing, I had this voice in my head. So I ended up going and working at a startup in Maine, and it was started by this guy who was super successful, and he had these grand visions, and he was an amazing house. And I worked there for about a year and a half, and it was kind of like The Office, like cubicles, and like a good group of people, and like it was fun, but it was kind of, you know, whatever.
It's a corporate grind kind of
feel.
feel.
Corporate grind, startup-y, Maine, like no one really knew what was going on. And in 2009, I think, yeah, like I remember just sitting there, and the CFO just started calling people into his office. And granted, every morning I'd be like, wow, Dow Jones is down like 800 points.
Oh shit.
I was like, is that bad? What does that mean? I didn't know anything. And these guys are like, yeah, dude, this is like this is legit serious.
Yeah.
And the CFO was calling people in this day, and he said, people would come out and they were like white on their face, and they're gone.
Yeah.
And I remember this woman I was working with, who was my boss. She was amazing. This woman, Emily, and she was just like, Carter, like, you got to understand, this is their company. You're an employee, and they're going to tell you you're going to get stock options and all these things, but like, you're the bottom of the totem pole here. And the next day, I found an Excel spreadsheet on the server and I looked through it, and it had all the salaries of all the people in my company. And it had like all the CMO and the CFO. There's only like 15, 20 of us. And they're making like $300,000, $400,000. I was making like 30 grand.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there being like, what the fuck? Like, this sucks.
Yeah.
And I'm making this kind of money. And like this, my life is to get promoted to one day be in their position, and they're fucking miserable too. And I'm not saying everybody's miserable. I'm just saying like that was the only thing I had to see.
That was your perspective at the time. Yeah.
And I remember leaving. So anyway, I left my job because I walked into my boss's office, said, dude, it's like, you're an entrepreneur, and I will never have what you have if I stay here, and you know it. And he's like, okay, like, what can I do to get you to stay here? Because he knew what And I was like, no, you can't do anything. And I left.
You left that day?
I left that day, and I was like,
cheers to that. Fuck yeah, man.
And I remember I went home and I read a book called The Fountainhead by Ayn Rand. And I'm, full disclosure, I'm not like an Ayn Rand guy. I was, but I realize like how like bombastic it is. Like she's so out there. But
it opened your eye. It gave you a new perspective.
I read that book over the weekend, or like over the next week or so, having just left my job. And I was like, holy shit. Because that book makes you feel like all of a sudden you realize that the world is crazy and you're not. Whereas in that job and in that situation, I was like, man, I must be crazy because I feel like I'm wearing these clothes I don't like. I'm going in this job I don't like. I'm doing shit that doesn't challenge me. This is like, something's wrong. And that flipped everything on its head. And all of a sudden I realized what happens when you realize that most of the world is insane, and everything is created by people that are crazier than you. Like, this is what Steve Jobs said. He's like, one day you wake up and you realize that all the rules in this world are just made by people.
No smarter.
Yeah, they're not any smarter than any of us. And they just make these rules up, and they're like, here are the rules for you. Here's how big you can think. Here's what your life needs to look like. Here's exactly what everything needs to be. And here's what happiness is. And here's the path you're supposed to be on. And when you have these experiences that blow the doors off that, and all of a sudden you wake up and you're like, at first it's overwhelming, but then you're like, dude, anything can happen if you have the freedom to do it and the opportunity. And I think that not everyone has this opportunity. Obviously, like, we all have, there's a lot of inequality and unfair things in this world, in this country, but I had those chances. And I remember being there and being like, holy shit, like, I can do anything. Mm-hmm. And now, later in life, it's like the idea of having that being taken from me is just, it's just unacceptable. I'm like, you get one chance at life. You get one shot. I mean, depending on what you believe in. But like, as far as I know, this is it. Like, why the fuck would I spend more years with a company or a government being like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is what makes you happy. This is how you're supposed to feel. This is what you're supposed to do. Yeah. This is what the right thing to do is. Like, I want to make that decision.
Once you're able to break out, like, for me, it was fear to like have the confidence to step out and be like, I'm actually going to forge my own path. It was like fear. No, I need a boss. I need a company. I need something to guide me and to tell me what to do because I'm incapable, right? That's like kind of what we're taught in school is like, you better fucking study. And if you're not good and if you don't listen and you don't follow the rules, you're going to end up on the streets or you're going to be a loser. And that was ingrained in me so often. And I was so bad in school that like I was terrified. I'm like, I'm either going to be really, really wealthy, or I'm going to end up in jail or dead. It's binary for me. Like, I'm not going to live this fucking middle of the road life and do something I'm not, you know, I don't hate, but I'm not in love with. Like you said, you get one shot, make the most of it. Why not? Why not? Like, what other option is there? You submit and you play good little soldier, or you say, fuck that, I'm bucking the trend and I'm going to make my own way.
And I think that that's right on, because I think along the way, I think we've both met plenty of people that are living a traditional life, and they're so happy. Like, they're so stoked. And I'm so happy for them. I'm like, fuck yeah, like, that's great. But when I meet people who aren't that happy, or are like, what am I really doing? Or,
Yeah.
you know, you get a few beers in them and they're like, well, here's this
is the reality.
Yeah, here's what's really going on. Yeah. You start to be like, dude, you have a choice, you know, whoever it may be. Like, you can do anything you want to do. I'm not saying you can go and start a business tomorrow. I'm saying you have the power to choose what you do each day. You do not have to go that. There's going to be consequences. You might not be able to afford it, but you still have the power to choose. And when you start to realize that, like, that's the most important thing in life, is understanding that you have the ability to choose the things that you do, that drives all your beliefs, drives all your behaviors. It creates your life. And the more conscious we are about that, the more aware we are, like, things just really start to happen. It's like, that's what the future has to be, is people who are making those decisions, I think.
That's why I'm such a huge proponent of tools like Bitcoin, because it does give power back to the person, right? A few years ago, I went to Myanmar, so like Burma, formerly Burma, and I went to this village like in the far north, and I was talking to these like farmers and fishermen and stuff that were about to be millionaires because they had land that was passed down from like 20 generations or something crazy. And they were facing a fact of like, you know, we thought we were going to be doing this thing, but now our lives are taking a 180 and we're about to be really wealthy. And I was there like trying to figure out, can I legally buy land from you? Answer was no. Couldn't figure out any way to make it work after talking to a bunch of attorneys and stuff. But then we went back and talked to more farmers on the other side of the land that they didn't actually own the land. And they were terrified. They're like, yeah, our buddies are about to get rich, but I guess we're going to keep doing this, you know, this farming thing or this fishing thing and keep overfishing the sea, which was getting harder every year for them to pull money out or fish out of. And they had just gotten internet like a couple years before. And I was like, well, have you thought about like working online? And one kid was like, yeah, like I want to be a programmer. I want to develop websites. But the problem is I can't get a bank account. And then he talked about how repressive the government was with, you know, controlling money, and how most people there actually literally kept their life savings under the mattress. Like,
wow.
Not a figure of speech. Like, they literally kept whatever they had under their mattress because they didn't trust the governments to not steal it from them.
Right.
And so we talked about Bitcoin, what that was. And I'm like, look, you can get paid. You can work online, sit here in your like little house in northern Burma. You can make on the low end a few $100 a month, which to them was like fucking baller money, right? And so to see that transition in somebody's mind, that deep, far away, what we know as Western society, that's when for me, I'm like, man, I am like on fire for this stuff.
I think that's like, I see two things happening in the world from my kind of limited viewpoint. I mean, obviously other people have better viewpoints than I do, but there's people that are getting online that have never, maybe agrarian societies like this, or places that are developing countries that are finally getting access to opportunities they never had before, or at least education about it, or whatever you want to call it, like connected world. And I think that the other side, which we could probably speak more to, is in the developing world or developed world, is a lot of people that they kind of get everything they've ever wanted, but they're at a plateau now, and they don't even realize they're at a plateau, or they don't even know what to do when they're at a plateau. So they're like, okay, I'm working at the job, I've got the family, got the car, got the house. living in the place I like, kids are good. Okay. Like
What's next?
What's the thing? Like why is there something missing? And that's always been a thing, like a midlife crisis. But now that you can't, like, you're not going to work, you're not going out as much, you're at your house, or your life has changed to be much more of a, it's a smaller world for even though we're more connected online, it's like a smaller feeling world in a lot of ways. And that's when, if these questions are not addressed and like given the proper attention, I think it's easy to just like lose your mind. Just be like, fuck this. Like, it's all like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like, I'm working from home, and God, it's so stressful. And this is,
Dude, I think it was last night, I was reading this Reddit post from a dentist who, it was like, I got the wife, I got the kids, I don't really love my wife anymore, and my kids aren't happy with me, and I did this job to like make money, and I thought it was like the safe route to go, but I'm fucking miserable. And you know what? I think like dentists have like the highest, or one of the highest suicide rates of all professions, because it's a safe, like comfortable life. But I don't think comfort and security is the best route for a lot of people, right? Like guys like us that are like risk takers, like we thrive on uncertainty and like risk taking. And I think there's more people out there like that's really who they are, that choose the safe path because they think it's going to make them happy or be able to survive, where really it's only going to lead to like misery and whatever.
Yeah. I think that, so like one of the mental models I have, which sounds super weird, like esoteric to a lot of people, but I kind of believe that like, equals MC squared, all things are made of energy. So mass, energy. And because of that, like you can apply like the laws of thermodynamics to virtually everything. Because on a most basic level, everything is the same. Like we are the same at the table as the air, as like everything is the same stuff. But because of that, energy needs to constantly flow through us, right? Like the law of entropy says that energy should always be moving to like the most even chaotic state. It should never be held and compressed. And the reason I say this is that I think that is what a lot of people are experiencing right now, is the lack of a release valve. And I think that a lot of men in particular, like, do not have a way to like let out that feeling of like, I'm a dentist, my wife doesn't love me, my kids don't really like me that much, like what the fuck am I doing? Sometimes it'd be like, you need to go get into a fight, or you need to go like box, or like you need to have that experience where you can't control yourself because you're seeing white and you're throwing punches at a bag and listen to Eminem, and you don't know why, but you feel this fire just pulling yourself out of them. And I think a lot of people just have never had that experience. And you watch a movie like Fight Club, and you get a glimpse of what that could be. And obviously that's a movie. But it's real, man. It's like that energetic move, and we're in this state, this 2020 state of energy is not flowing the way it's supposed to flow. We're not going out the way we're supposed to go out. We're not connecting with people we're supposed to connect with. And it's like, you have to find that energetic move. You have to do something that gets the energy out.
Yeah.
Has to happen.
I completely agree, man. Like, I know whenever I don't work out, and I gained a bunch of weight during this COVID shit, and I sunk into my own funk, right? It's whenever I'm working out, whenever I'm pushing limits, whenever I get comfortable being uncomfortable, that's where like true calm sets in. Without that, I get really anxious. Like, I'm a type A guy, like high energy kind of guy. And if I don't have a release for that, it bottles up, and it creates weird situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I think, maybe we should start an Austin Fight Club. That'd be kind of a...
Dude, I've never been in like a proper fight, but I used to box with this trainer in San Francisco, and he was ex-military.
Yeah.
I don't know the full story of this guy. He had a few screws loose, but
he probably got punched too many times.
Yeah, he was a great guy. I got along with him, and we would box. He was a kickboxer. And one day he's like, all right, let's actually spar let's do some real stuff.
Yeah.
So he's like, all right, let's do some moves, whatever. And he goes, all right, I want you to punch me in the chest, blah, blah, blah. And so I go down and I punch him, and it slips off the pad and moves up to his neck. And like, and he's like, and he looks at me, and dude, I see something, like something flips in his eyes. And I'm like, this is why you were dishonorably discharged, wasn't it?
Oh, shit.
He looks at me, and I remember sitting there and like frozen. And all I could just see him looking at me, and he came at me and was about to punch me in the face, and he stopped himself because he knew he would get fired. Like, he would literally knock me out. And in that moment where he was like about to punch me, I felt such a flow state, like such a Zen moment that was just complete. There's no thoughts. You don't experience anything except what's going on right now. And they stopped. He's like, okay, punch me again. So I punched him again. He came back and he like threw some punches, but it wasn't this rage thing going on. And anyway, we did this for about 45 minutes. I was so gassed. And I walked home that night or that afternoon. I remember walking down the street, no headphones, no thoughts, nothing in my head. It was the first time in years that I felt completely empty, like nothing was there. And I slept better that night than I've slept in fucking 10 years.
Wow.
And I think that was such a huge experience. And I think it's something that, like that metaphor of that type of emotion where you can control it. Like you don't have to quit your job tomorrow if you have a job that you don't like. You don't have to leave something you don't like, but try to put yourself into controlled situations with people you can trust and experience something that scares the fucking shit out of you. Like something that brings out something in you that you're not sure you can control, and like let it happen.
Dude, that is, I think you just put together like the framework. It's like take yourself in a scary situation, number one. Number two, that's outside of your control. And then show yourself that you can like get through that. For me, it's scuba diving. So I struggle with anxiety a lot. And one thing that freaks me out is the ocean. As it should. Like we live above the fucking water, right? Like going underwater and hanging out with sharks is kind of an unnatural thing. I actually seek it out now because when I go underwater and I feel the anxiety rising up, it's the breathing. Have you scuba dived before?
No, never done it.
It's like yoga, like the way you breathe into your regulator. It's actually easier than breathing above water because it kind of pushes the air in and out. So it's very effortless to breathe. And when you go down and I feel that anxiety rising up, I'm like, okay, you can freak out and die. You can like scramble to the top and like freak out and like have your eyes pop out of your head, or you can like chill out and enjoy it. And that's why I like getting around sharks, because the anxiety goes up even more and it's almost become like a game. Like how far can I take this? But it's beautiful too. It's like, it's low impact. It's pretty safe, right? But it does push those limits. And after every dive, I get like this high of like, oh my God, man. Not only was it visually beautiful and like seeing the sharks, but it gives you that self-confidence too that you probably felt when you're like, I'm about to die by getting punched in the face by this guy, but I made it out the other side.
And I'm sure when you're underwater and a shark swims by, you're not thinking about fucking Bitcoin's price or like,
well, it depends. What's it doing that day?
The volatility.
Yeah.
But like that feeling of your mind going blank, it's different. Like when you meditate, or when I meditate, I should say, there's a feeling sometimes whenever you get to this kind of peaceful state of observation, like that's great. But when you are in that state of like controlled fear or whatever you want to call it, where you know your body is resisting it so bad, but you're breathing through it and you're experiencing it, like that is when you can understand like what your limits are.
Yeah.
And like there's a quote, it's like, nothing you ever wanted in life or everything you want in life lies right outside your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. And that's the way to do it. I think that having these controlled experiences of fear-related stuff is just so powerful and so necessary now, because like the fear that is being shoved down our throats and has been this whole year, like that's not real fear. That's like propaganda.
Mm-hmm.
Now, real fear is the stuff that you won't tell people about. It's the secrets that you have that nobody knows. And that's when you really start to ask yourself, what do I want in this life? And what everybody wants is to be able to tell those secrets and have someone be like, it's okay. And like, let's release that from you.
Yeah.
But like, there's no way to tell that to anybody. And that's when it all happens. Like that's the whole game, everything.
I think that's also what I love about trading is like, I always tell people, if you want to find out who you really are, trade financial markets. You can't hide from any of that shit.
That's 100%.
You might think you're the most badass, tough motherfucker in the world. You put $1 million on the line on something when you never have, and let's see how you do. Let's have a 50% drawdown and see if you can keep your stuff together.
Yeah, that is the truth, man. Especially when, I mean, obviously trading attracts people that love money. And when you go into something where you are judged based on the thing that you want the most or that you like the most or you need the most, it adds, so it's the equivalent of like if somebody loves feeling beautiful or needs to feel beautiful, be like, oh yeah, you should go try to be a supermodel. Like you're gonna get your ass kicked every day for the very thing you need the most.
Yeah.
And I think with that's what happens with a lot of trading. And it happened to me for sure. Is I wanted the money so bad, and I kept 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, because the market knows. It knows you are the guy who wants the money so bad, and you're going to make the dumbest decision that like validates that feeling. And the more I trade, the more I am able to dissociate myself from how I feel.
Yeah.
And just do what it tells me to do. Like that's why I took profits yesterday on some of my Bitcoin, because I was like, I do not want to do this. But every time I've ignored this before, I've regretted it. But right now, this is the last thing I want to do.
So you've been through a full market cycle.
Yeah, because like I've experienced it before. Yeah. Like I know what it feels like to be sitting on a bag for 9 months and be like, the fuck? And like, come on. Because right at the bottom is when you need it the most usually.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think that's the same where the ability to sit in those situations, I think, like you said, trading is, if you fantasize about having millions of dollars, like trading is the best thing for you spiritually, and it's the worst thing for you financially probably, but it will give you the biggest education imaginable.
It's so true. It's like the more you want the money, the lower the quality your decisions are going to be, which means the worse your results are going to be. And I have the unique privilege of being in a situation where I've actually like trained thousands of people in this stuff. And so I see the people that do really well and I see the people that don't do well. It's the opposite of what you think it would be. It's like the really smart kind of A-type personality, bulldozer, attorneys, CEOs, type A's. They do the worst. Yeah. It's the moms, the nurses, the even like pilots, firefighters. It's people that are used to being in higher stress situations with a lot on the line that don't let their ego get in the way. They do well. That's why Nikki's such a great trader. Yeah. That's why I struggled for so long and why I have to keep myself in check, because I'm a stubborn ass. And like, you know, guys like us that think, oh, we're going to go to the financial markets. This is the 1980s Wolf of Wall Street bullshit. The markets know now, man. Yeah. They'll whip you into shape, dude. The second you get egotistical or you get overconfident, you're going to get slapped.
Well, that's the other thing, is one of the reasons why yesterday, at least with Bitcoin, but this has happened on countless trades, where I'll be sitting there and I go for a walk in the morning, and whenever I go for a walk and I'm thinking about like how good it's going to be when I hit this price or when this happens, as soon as I start
counting your chips,
I'm like, I need to like, that's it. I'm out. I have to be. Yeah. It's like, that is exactly when things go the other way. Like every time. Yeah. And it's just like you just, after a while you learn to get used to it. where you're like, oh, I'm going to throw up now. Like, this is probably when I should buy.
Be like, I want to run away and never show my. That's why I laugh when people are like, oh man, it's the Bitcoin bull market. That's why Carter and Chris are doing videos again. It's like, you guys have no idea why we're doing this, but you're going to assume it's because we're excited at the price, which we are.
Yeah, I mean, it's great.
But yeah, anyway.
But I think that that's also what you said about the personalities is crypto brought a lot of people in from the marketing world, or at least from the like entrepreneur space.
Yeah.
In 2017, not so much as right now, but as you know, in the marketing business, in the online business, there is a direct correlation between the amount of effort you put in and the amount of money you make. So if you want to make more money, just put out more effort. Like, make more videos, send more emails, build more products,
do more stuff.
Just keep producing, and you will make more money, assuming you have a good thing going. When you come to the market world, it's like, it's not the opposite, because you still have to do work. You have to create ideas and get conviction and things like that. But it is like, there's no correlation between how hard you work or how bad you want it, or it's not, it's a whole different world. It's almost like I want to get some yoga Zen master and be like, dude, can I show you how to trade futures and you just trade by account? Because you probably don't feel anything. You'd probably kill it. You know, you don't have anything attached to this.
Yeah.
And I think that's been the hardest thing when I look back at my transition from online business owner, because I sold a bunch of businesses back in the day. And I was like, should I build another one? And I said, no, I'm done with that for now. Because of the need to just generate energy all the time or put out energy. But now it's like, okay, you have a bad trade or you didn't make what you wanted to make this week or whatever it may be. There is this ingrained feeling in me. Like, I need to be doing something. I need something more. I need to find a stock to buy because I need to make money today. And that is the worst thing you can do.
Yeah.
And you know, learning how to fill up that time with healthy shit, like, you know, go for a run and meditate or whatever you get, whatever you can do. It's the hardest thing to do. And I think anybody who's watching this or listening to this, you're in the crypto markets, you may have a job that's like, the harder you work, the more money you make. And you're trying to do the same thing. And the anxiety is going into your crypto account. Like, that's exactly how I felt in 2017. I mean, imagine buying a shitload of Ethereum at $7-8 and watching it go up and then go down and go up and go down. And there's people telling you, dude, don't worry, don't do anything. Like, just hold on to it. I'm like, that's the exact opposite of what I do.
Yeah.
Of what I've done for 10 years. And I know how hard that can be. But I think when people are telling you, like, yeah, you can trade a little bit and you can try to, but it's a rarity to find the time when you should sell or when you should buy. It's not the norm. You should be waking up being like, I know I'm going to do nothing today. And maybe once in a while, I'll do something. Versus what most people do, which is like, I got to do something every day because I have this like innate feeling to do.
I have to feel productive. I have to go in and I have to find a reason to justify the time I'm putting into this because my family already thinks I'm crazy for trading crypto or doing this. Now I have to justify it to them. And the harder I work, the more money I think I'm going to make. It's the opposite.
It just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also, it's like with you know, internet marketing, it's like, your monthly revenue is kind of like the benchmark. Mm-hmm. In crypto, in markets and trading, and at least in my experience, it's more like you get a few wins, you get like a big win, and then nothing happens for 5 months, and then you get a huge win, and then you get a few wins, and then you get a big one, and then you get a small one, and then you lose some. But it's like at the end of the year, you know, is your stack bigger than what it was at the beginning of the year? You know, taxes paid and everything else. And it's just a different mentality of having like futures is a little different because you know you can trade for income, but for crypto it's like you're looking at like 3 or 4 trades a year. Like, you can make millions of dollars, and depending on how much money you have, you can make a shitload of money doing nothing, just having some guidance, understanding what trends look like, just buying in, just don't do shit.
Whenever I go back and I look at the biggest screw ups I've had with the crypto trades where I've left millions on the table the number one reason is always I got in my own way. It was never like, oh, the project failed and I didn't think about it, because I do the work, right? Like I don't get into bullshit. Like I take my time. I don't rush in. I do all the easy stuff, or what is easy now because I've done it for so long. But the things that really screw me up are like over managing a trade, or like, I don't really capitulate. I don't fear sell, but I do close habitually too early. I've gotten better at that though. I don't know. It's weird because trading is like this it's like this group of skill sets, right? You might be awesome at finding entries, but you might suck at managing trades, or you might be awesome at finding projects early, but you might freak out when prices go down, right? You have to do like a lot of things right to get the whole pie of success working.
Right.
And not only that, trading is the one thing where you can do everything right and still lose money.
That's exactly right.
That's the fucking weird thing.
Yeah.
Is like you have to get comfortable like doing the work, putting in the time, doing it right, and you lose money and you're still not pissed off. Most people can't do that.
Right.
I couldn't do that for a long time.
Yeah, like the ability to take a loss is and treat it. I mean, the goal, at least my goal in trading, especially with futures, is eventually I want to be able to look at it just like a video game. And just be like, look, am I winning? Am I getting points today? Did I lose points today? It's not about, wow, did I add money to my wealth stack or did I fuck up or whatever?
Yeah.
It's like get rid of the highs and lows. Because if you play a video game, like short of the dopamine stuff, you're just like, okay, I'm done playing, move on to the rest of my life. And
You
like,
gamify it. You remove that like monetary attachment.
that's right. Like the dollars is just like, it's just a point system or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And I think that, yeah, you can do everything right and lose money and be like, yeah, I did it right. That's the game. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But,
Dude, we've been going for 2.5 hours.
holy shit.
That's
Jesus.
awesome, man.
Yeah,
Cheers.
cheers to that, man.
Bro, it's, here, you need some more.
A little more.
Hey guys, for those of you that are still watching, thanks for hanging out with us. I hope you got some value out of our
cheers.
crazy ramblings.
I wish we had like a big Zoom,
with everybody's face
like
right there.
A 60-inch TV.
Kind of want to like fist bump
Yeah,
everybody.
that's
dude.
right. That's right.
This is fun. So this is like just my second live stream here in the studio. We finally got all this stuff set up. We got Kevin, who's a badass, behind the screen there. Man, thanks for being our first Whiskey and Wisdom
This is great, man.
guest here, brother.
It's a great spot.
Yeah, man. Should we do some Q&A and then wrap it up?
Yeah, that'd be great.
What questions do you guys have? Let's do like, I don't know, 10 more minutes and then
Yeah, that sounds great.
get some food. Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Awesome. Carry on. Good stuff.
Let's pull up the Bitcoin chart. Just take a look at that.
Oh, yeah, we can keep this up. Where'd my mouse go?
Hey-o.
Did my mouse die? Huh. All right. Yeah, we'll pull up Bitcoin. Man, look at that breakout, dude.
Damn, dude. That thing is
I'm not going to lie. I fucking nailed this year, dude.
yeah. Well,
You know, last year was frustrating. We made money on the way up and it was just boring as hell through here. I had a little breakout trade through here. But this year, man, this is my second biggest year to date so far.
hell yeah, man. This is just one of those years where the stock market's kind of similar where you're just like, the column of like, oh, here's why it should go down and consolidate, and the other side is just like it's just going to go up. Just
Yeah.
fucking stop, and just when it goes down, you buy it. Like
Yeah.
that's it. And I think that this was a great year because it launched the amount of energy that March low probably shouldn't have happened because of liquidations and everything. And I think that realistically, we probably should have cruised up and then, dipped down a little bit more and then had a slow ascent up. But because we got that amount of volume that fast,
Yeah.
we basically slingshot and we bypassed 3 to 6 months of price discovery, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was a few things, right? So it was that, and then it was like the acceleration, I think, of COVID and the money printing and people working from home and waking up. And then like a lot of people came into trading, right?
Yeah,
so like all
true.
the Robinhood people and all that. I know a lot of new people came into crypto. So it's like, it's almost like things got accelerated to the downside and the upside. And like, man, I can't wait for next year. Hopefully, fingers crossed, when things like slow down a little bit, to look back and go, wow, man, that was so many lessons. What a wild ride.
Totally.
Cool. Let's see what questions you guys are typing in. Do you guys like this, by the way? Do you guys like this format?
Live stream.
What do I tell my new brother who wants to go all in right now? I don't know, Carter, you're the official financial advisor of the show.
This is definitely not financial advice for
yeah.
listening.
So mortgage your house, sell your kids.
Like, if you heard of leverage, it's amazing. No, I think that what I would tell them is how much, okay, so you want to go all in. Let's say that's 50 grand. Who knows?
Yeah.
So let's say it's $50,000 is all in. What I would say is, okay, tomorrow, go put in 5,000. That's it. And then wait a couple weeks, like maybe wait a week or at least 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you're going to do it again, add like $500 at a time. Just get used to the feeling of buying crypto.
Yeah.
Because kind of like what we were talking about earlier, a lot of people, like, I think you just want the rush of like buying shit.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, I own it now. And then like, that's going to wear off. It wears off, and if price goes down, it wears off real quick.
Yeah.
But I think if you go in slow, I think anybody buying Bitcoin at this point is buying it because they believe it's going to go to 100 grand or 150 grand or 200 grand, that's a fucking massive move from here. So it's less about
10x. So we're at what's the market cap right now?
200 something, 250 maybe.
If it's 250, then that's 2.5 trillion ish, which is still a quarter of gold.
Right.
So that's why it's not crazy, right? That's why the dollar per Bitcoin number doesn't matter. It's the market cap. But anyway, sorry.
Well, yeah. And I think what I would also tell this person's brother is that with investing or like quasi like long-term swing trading, I guess with this, in this case, it's less about the entry and it's way more about how long you hold it.
Yeah.
So don't ask yourself, should I go in right now? It's go in with a small amount. And the question is like, how long am I willing to hold this even at a 90% drawdown?
That was what I was going to say, is like buy an amount that if it went down by 90%, you wouldn't freak out and sell the bottom. You would actually have more dry powder, to buy at those prices. I would also add, like, before buying the first 5K, set up your account, get your security shit in check.
Totally.
2FA, like read all the security articles, get all that secure, buy $100 and like just send it around. Like get really comfortable with hardware wallets, addresses, like send your family and friends some, tell them to send it back, like get really comfortable with the way that Bitcoin moves around, and then put in your 5K and then scale in however you want. But learn how to, like, God, I hate how there's this narrative of how trading is bad now. It's a way of looking at the market and quantifying it and making decisions of when it's wise to buy and sell and how to position size your investments.
Right.
That's all trading is.
Mm-hmm.
People think of trading as, I'm in, I'm out, I'm trying to make $500. Fuck all that. Fuck day trading. Think about the things that matter, which is the entry points, the exit points. Like you said, if you're a long-term hodler, then position sizing matters and targets matter. Entry price and timing on the entry less so. But that's where sizing comes in. I don't know. There's a lot to it, right?
But to the brother, I would say take 10% of whatever you think you want to put in. Go put it in.
Yeah.
Start a weekly routine where you deposit a small amount. Like you said, get used to owning Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And it's going to pull back. Like it might go up a little bit more, but it always pulls back at least for a couple of days. And like wait for pullbacks and just buy dips. Like if there's no other advice, just buy dips. Don't buy it when it's straight up vertical.
Yeah, when you see 3 green days in a row like this, like sure, could it keep going? Sure. But the probabilities, if you run the back test, it says a dip's coming.
Yeah, the dips always come, and like it's hard to wait for them, but just it's worth it. It like I know you're playing the long game. Like that's it.
Absolutely, man. What do you think of the Bitcoin and PayPal combo? I think it's phenomenal. A lot of people in the like hardcore old school Bitcoin maximalists, they're like, oh, they don't let you control your private keys. This is bullshit. No, it's actually amazing because it gives access to what is it? 30 million people?
I have no idea. It's a lot.
Shit.
It's like a massive number.
Yeah. There's guys, the demand. So did I retweet this? Let me see something. Hang on. I retweeted somebody today. Here we go. Yeah, Charles Edwards. So this is the guy that came up with the indicator for production cost. Anyway, Square is doubling the Bitcoin. Okay, so basically the demand that is coming from PayPal and Square right now is way beyond what they anticipated.
Wow.
There's a couple other articles I'll pull up and I'll tweet these later so you guys can look at this later. But the idea is the demand is coming from PayPal and Bitcoin or from PayPal and Square. It's a phenomenal thing. It's an entry point, even if it's not perfect, even if it's like, yeah, PayPal is dipping their toe in and they're not letting you like truly control your private keys. Who gives a fuck? These people, this is their first entry into Bitcoin. So I think it's a net positive.
Yeah, I think that they, one of the most valuable metrics for the future of price discovery for Bitcoin is how many people own $100 worth of Bitcoin. And I think if that number goes up into the right, you're going to see Bitcoin at $100,000 like pretty soon.
Yeah.
And that's because I mean, think about the effort required to buy a little bit. And like, if you can get a lot of people just to buy $50 worth, that's the name of the game.
Yeah.
They're going to buy more.
Yeah.
And like, that's the name of the game.
Let me read you this text. So this was from a family friend a couple of days ago that, he bought, I think it was like a few $100 worth of Bitcoin for the first time. He's a boomer. He was like, hey, Chris, I'm getting rich on Bitcoin. I've made $183. That's more interest that the banks paid me in 3 years. And I was like, that is the eye opener. Right. Again, it's speculation. It's fun. It's small numbers, whatever. But that conversation is happening millions of times around the world right fucking now.
Well, here's the question for you. So if this is speculation, what's a safe bet in this world?
Oof. How many more hours do we have?
And so like, obviously it's kind of a rhetorical question, but when I ask people that, they're like, well, I guess stocks and bonds. I'm like, dude, do you know what's going on in the bond market and 0% interest rates? And like, it's an insane world we live in.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the other thing is that it looks like it's crazy to someone, who's never experienced it. But when you start to think about the world we live in, you start to realize maybe it's actually not that crazy. And maybe it isn't pure speculation. Maybe this is actually a pretty rational thing to do.
Yeah. It seems crazy until everybody catches on and then the alpha's gone.
That's it. Yeah.
Right. So being early and being crazy is what makes profitable investments. You just got to learn to survive and not get run over. Let's see here. Where did the chat go? Okay, here we go. I'm going to scroll the opposite way. My brain's moving a little slow right now. thanks to this
Friday night, man.
4 Roses single barrel. Yeah, man.
We're doing the Alex Jones treatment on this thing right now.
Holy shit!
Did you see him on Joe Rogan?
No, I can't watch him anymore.
He did his recent, and he just like he was going off, and Rogan did a good job fact checking him.
Yeah.
It was kind of like you kind of want Alex Jones to just go nuts, like you want him to just like go off.
Yeah.
But Joe Rogan was doing a sober October, so Alex Jones drank like half a bottle of whiskey by himself, and an hour into the interview, he was like, "Man, you're not gonna drink anything with me? Like, what the fuck?" It was so
that's
fucking
hilarious.
good. That was hilarious.
Oh, Tyler says Carter introduced me to dollar cost averaging in 2017 and saved my ass during that bear market. Thanks, man.
Yeah, boom.
Sweet. Good
Love
job,
it.
Tyler.
Glad to hear it.
Tony has 2 questions. With the volatility and uncertainty this year, how do you think over a longer time horizon? I'm not sure what you mean by like how do we think? Like what do we think about what? Crypto, stock market, politics? Second question, what sources have you found most influential on your trading style? I remember you mentioning trading in the zone a while back. Man, so my trading style and my trading experience goes back to high school, and it's a wide variety of stuff. Like I started in high school trading futures and stocks and blew out accounts, got into algorithmic trading, built systems, read as many trading books as you can imagine, bought all the software, back tested indicators, like traded every market except for options. I never really got into options. So it's kind of a culmination of all that. You know who I really like and have a lot of respect for is Peter Brandt. I think Peter is a dope dude. He's got a lot of, he actually was just published in Jack Schwager's new, what is it? Unknown Market Wizards. Yeah. He's the first chapter in the book. I think he's just got a ton of wisdom. At the end of the day though, trading, you have to like come up with your own thing that fits you, your personality, your risk tolerance. Like if you try to emulate other people too much, you're going to fall flat for a number of reasons. But, yeah, my stuff is just a culmination of a whole lot of stuff over the past like 19 or 20 years. Like
there's a great book called The Turtle Trader, which they have like a whole system and stuff you can buy. It's not worth buying, but the book, and at least you can read the story where I think it was at some university. The professor went to these finance majors and said, "Okay, we're going to give you each $25,000 and you get 6 months to deploy it, but you're only allowed to trade 4 times. And that's it. So you have to be able to prove why you're trading, what you're trading. You have to write it down, and you have to be able to defend those trades at the end of the 6 months.
Yep.
Why you, like, at least the entries. And these traders end up being very successful because it forced them to be very discerning on the trades. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that, especially if you're trading, daily candles or long-term swing trades, weekly candles, whatever, and saying, okay, I'm doing 4 trades this year. That's it. And I can absolutely say, I think most traders would tell you, 4 trades a year is all you need to make a fucking ton of money. Yeah. Especially in crypto.
It's true.
And if you can say, okay, I'm only trading 4 times this year, and hold yourself to that, it will make you will not trade a lot of times, which is really important.
Overtrading is the number 1 killer of accounts. Number 1 by far. Absolutely. I consider this, by the way. So that I had a trade here. So I bought this. This was that was January. But then I closed it here. So like I had a pivot to pivot trade here. That was 1 trade. On this dip right here, I started in and I built in through here and I took a little profit. But I've been scaling in here. This for me right here is 1 trade. Like that's the weird thing is like people think of 1 trade as like 1 entry. This for me was 1 trade. Like my cost basis is actually pretty high at this point. It's like 10,000. like I started in here and I've been buying, took some profit, bought back, like scaled in and out. But like everybody in our Discord knows, like I've been building into this fucker for a while, and now we've hit some pay dirt, right? So it, like when people think about like one trade, it could be one entry, like back here, that was one entry on this Head and Shoulders break, or it could be you build into it for months.
Right.
And I had so much conviction. I was like, I'm just building in. And now I'm the heaviest I've ever been in Bitcoin.
Hell
so yeah. All right, cool. Let's see here. This is like the financial Joe Rogan experience. Awesome. Oh man. You know, it's funny. I never want to be anywhere close to Joe's size. Like I think having that many people, like I want my small base of just badass people that are cool. And like he gets like nitpicked for the smallest thing now. Like he's supposed to be some like person that he's not.
Yeah.
Like he's a guy that loves boxing and is an excellent conversationalist and just interested in so many things, and all of a sudden like people start nitpicking him. I don't want that. Like I just want to make money and help other people make money.
He's like he's a cult, you know. He's like a whole. I mean, I love his podcasts. I think they're amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just, you know, there's like subreddits devoted to just like creating memes out of his videos. Like,
Yeah.
this is crazy.
Yeah. Oh, Carter said, so Tony was reframing. Carter said, recently in 5 years, you'd look back and wish you'd bought more financial assets. Can you expand on your thoughts?
Yeah. On Twitter, I wrote, in 5 years, the biggest financial regret you have is that you didn't buy more. You didn't buy more financial assets 5 years ago or something like that. The idea being is that if you are buying into what do you call it? Asset classes that are designed to go up, specifically stocks. Bitcoin's a good example. Bond market, 50-50. But, you know, anything that like is appreciating in value, venture capital, like I've invested in a bunch of companies in venture capital side, whatever it may be, by definition, those are going to go up. And when you look at life, when you look at your own life, when I look at my own life in particular, the reason why like the big moves never happened is because I sold assets to like buy other stuff or whatever it may be, instead of leaving all the stuff alone and making more money to just to take care of what I needed to take care of. Like if I had adopted the motto of never sell from, you know, 2003, famously, I put this in my Coin Master newsletter. I took all the money I'd ever made in my summer jobs lifeguarding. It was like $18,000, and I bought Apple stock at $4 or $5 or something like that. And then I sold it like 2 weeks later, or like 2 months later, to buy beer money or to buy beer. Sweet. That would be worth like $80 million today.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at all the decisions I have made over my life, it's like all the reasons why the huge fuck you money hasn't come in is just because I've sold stuff. It's never been because I didn't buy the right stuff. I've always bought the right stuff at the right time. I've just never held it long enough. And when I talk to I've talked to a lot of people above the age of 50, 60, 70, and they all say the same thing. They're like, dude, the most important thing is owning assets. Just own more shit. If you want to have wealth, you just need to own more stuff.
Yep.
That's it. And like, the more, you know, we hang out with people that are millionaires, multimillionaires, billionaires, it has not, like, how much you earn is important, but it's just how much you own.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the only thing that matters. And especially right now, we're going to look back at this moment in time and be like, fuck, I wish I had bought more, insert the blank. I mean, everything, like they're printing so much money. Everything's going to go so fucking high. It's just like, you're going to be so pissed if you didn't just buy and buy and buy.
Yep.
That's it. Like, so
it's the whole like delayed gratification argument and idea of like finding something early that everybody calls you crazy. Like, what do you mean you're buying Pokemon cards, right? Like fucking Pokemon cards are going crazy right now. What do you mean you're buying Bitcoin? What is this bullshit, you know, drug money? Like, you got to be crazy and early, but you also have to be right.
Right.
You know, you can't be wrong. You can't be like, oh, I'm buying X-Men cards. You know, I don't know if they have any value, but I used to have them when I was a kid for some reason. You got to be right. You got to be crazy and you got to be right. And then you got to, like you said, hold on and let everybody else come behind you and push that higher.
And yeah, and like the just speaking from my own experience, the mentality of like those assets are not for sale. It's not like when Bitcoin hits 80 grand, you're like, okay, well then I'll cash out and I'll buy the altcoin. It's like, that's it. You bought it. It's fucking done.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can have trading accounts, but your whole, like, to get really wealthy, all your mentality should be is, how do I make more money?
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. So everybody thinks about this. Well, not everybody. A lot of people I talk to think about this wrong. They're like, how do I take this little bit of money I have, put it in the markets and turn that into a big amount of money by doing nothing? Yeah, you can do that. But the juice comes from when you can maximize your cash flow and just continue to feed the machine. That's why I call my investing process the machine.
Right.
I want to make as much money not related to the markets as possible, take as much of that capital as I can and throw it in and juice those returns. And you think compound interest is powerful? Use compound interest, juicing that with income, cash flow. Holy shit. You want to go from 5K to $1 million. That's how you do it.
That's right. That's right. That's exactly right. That mindset shift of not looking at your investments as a source of revenue ever. I mean, cash flow maybe, like dividends or whatever, but they should just get reinvested and just always waking up every day and be like, how do I make more money?
Yeah.
It can be a business, it can be a job, it can be trading, whatever, but that's how you get rich. Like that's the name of the game.
Boom. I love it. All right, let's do a couple more questions, then we'll wrap up. We're going on 3 hours.
Damn.
Okay, let's see here. We need this weekly, guys. Awesome. Yeah, we'll try to do these as many times as we can. I don't want to drink myself
a
to
liver
death.
problem.
Yeah. What percentage of your Bitcoin would you feel comfortable holding on a platform like BlockFi versus cold storage? You know, anything where I give up my keys, I like to diversify and keep no more than like 5 to 10% of my stack on any given exchange or platform. Like, could be a lending platform, could be a DEX, could be a centralized exchange. How do you feel about that?
I would say the more diversification for storage, the better. I think that's probably, so, you know, BlockFi, hard wallet, exchanges, different places to go. I think that like we were talking about earlier, all I think about at this point is like, what's the worst case scenario? And I like, if this exchange goes down, I want to make sure that this is okay. And if this goes down, I want to make sure that, like, nothing can wipe me out. I mean, famous last words. So, but you know, that's what I think about, on a daily basis. And I think that that's how you should approach, like, upside should never trump security and like risk management. That risk management should always be number one. Yeah. 100%. Drawdowns kill everything. It kills everything. Yep. David was asking, who are the people or education platforms worth following? Podcasts, videos, articles, newsletters? Carter? Well, I mean, for trading stuff, definitely your stuff, if they're not already subscribed. I found that Baby Pips was a great beginner place to start. They have a free course online. It's based around Forex, but it's just like, the basics of how markets work. Yeah, candlesticks and macro markets. That's a really awesome resource. Babypips.com. I remember that from like 10 years ago, I think. Like, this is like a really good intro. YouTube has some good stuff. I think that the biggest thing is that it's less about the resources themselves and it's more about who do you jive with. Yeah. You know, like, who's the person that you feel kind of gets you, because there's some people that have like big egos in the trading business that some people really like, and some people are very quantitative or whatever it may be. So what I would recommend people do is go and look at the people that you follow. So go look at who I follow, go look at you follow, go look at the other traders in the community. Who do they follow? And then go down that rabbit hole and find some of these people, look at what websites they own or what YouTube channels they have. It's going to take a weekend or two, but it makes it, I spent 30, 40 grand finding a teaching strategy that I like and coaches that I like and people that work well with me. I would just encourage people, like, just try out a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
I would also say, like, don't disregard people that you don't like their personality, because they might be smart and you might be able to learn stuff from them. So, like, I follow people that I disagree with, you know, like in the crypto space, it's so weird. It's so tribal. Like, you've got Bitcoin maximalists, you've got shitcoin shillers, you've got people that are running their own coins. You know, I look at all those people as good people on the whole, on the average, right? Even if I disagree with them, I want to know what they're thinking and saying.
Totally.
When it comes to trading and investing education, you got to be really careful because there's a lot of frauds out there. Stay away from day trading. Stay away from anybody doing pump and dump shit, any obvious stuff like that. Focus more on the mental game than strategy. So the technical analysis part is easy. Learning how to control your own emotions and how to apply that to the markets is next level. Like that's where most people fail.
Yeah. And I think along those lines, I think that there's the education on average in the crypto market is good. But I think if you're okay with learning about stocks and Forex, like, you can find some really good people that teach you how to trade that you can then apply to Bitcoin. But, you know, they may be teaching you how to trade the S&P 500, but they may have a system that works really well, that in like a good community. I think the community makes a huge piece. I think finding a group of people that you can talk to and bounce ideas off of and get trade ideas around, that makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah.
Huge difference.
Yeah. Because trading, it's such a lonely thing, right? Trading, investing, if you're just there with your own perspective, you're kind of limited. You're like in a box of your own perspective, where when you are in a community, like our Discord is dope. We've got Travis, who used to manage $1 billion hedge fund. We got Nikki, who's crushing the game on the markets in the stocks world. And then we got Crypto Hustle, aka Rocky, who's a crypto OG. Like, you want a diverse group, right? You want people that can disagree with each other and see the markets from different perspectives. Like, Rocky's style of trading is dramatically different than mine, but we both have made a lot of money, right? There is no right way.
Yeah, and I think that's right on.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, guys. Appreciate all the feedback. Carter, you talked about GoPro today. Can you elaborate?
Honestly, not really. All I know is they released GoPro 9, I think, GoPro 8 or GoPro 9. But with that, they released a subscription model, which is, I think it's $4.99 a month or something, where you get unlimited storage up to. So if you pull up the chart on GoPro, actually, you get unlimited storage up to just in the cloud. I think you get some sort of discount or like free.
So what was that, the subscription that you were saying was the bull case?
Yeah. So if you look at their
wait, what did I type?
GP.
Dude, I can't even type right now. This whiskey is kicking my butt. All right.
So if you scroll out, it's like,
so IPO, then went crazy, then got into a long kiss of death.
Yeah. And so they had this new subscription model where basically GoPro has been it's been like the biggest. It's one of the most shortest stocks, I think.
Yeah, let's see what they're...
And it's just kind of like a dead company, in my opinion. But with this new subscription thing, like, their whole revenue model kind of got flipped on its head. And their stock went from like, I don't know, like $3, I think, to I think it's like 8 now or something.
Yeah, the short, it's 10%. It's not crazy high, but it's it's a little high.
So anyway, when you look at the potential of companies who adopt these subscription models, historically, it's a massive bull case. Look, like I said on Twitter, I don't own any GoPro stock. I have nothing to gain if you buy or sell this. I don't give a shit.
Pump it.
Yeah. But what I will say is that whenever you see a kind of dormant, dead company like Nautilus Exercise Equipment, they were basically on the verge of bankruptcy, and then COVID hit. And now they're fucking killing it because they.
What do you know their ticker?
I don't know, Nautilus. Yeah, check
NLS. Oh shit! I haven't even looked at
Yeah.
this.
So like so like they were about to die.
Wow.
And then COVID hit, and they reformatted their whole business model to like new equipment, subscriptions, the whole thing, and like the fucking revenue model just exploded.
Oh yeah, that definitely happened on COVID too.
Yeah.
Boom.
And so, like, I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but GoPro, but there's a core audience on GoPro. There's power users, there's casual users, and the problem they've always had is how do you build out this? How do you flatten the revenue curve? Apple had the same problem. Apple then switched to a subscription model for the loans.
That's what Peloton's doing too. Like I think Travis and Nikki were saying they kind of break even-ish on the bikes, but it's the subscription that really keeps them going.
It's the content, and that's what. So what I would say with GoPro is that if they get the subscription thing to continue to rebuild, and they find a way to add that incremental value, like the hardware thing is going to be what Apple is, which is basically a break even. But if they can find a way to get some sort of incremental revenue, like business thing on top of that, whether it be like editing service, I don't fucking know what they would do. But if they could, I mean, the stock was trading at like $60 at some point.
Yeah.
And it's trading at 6 or 7 now. It's there's a shot. But I would not treat this as an investment. I would treat this as a deep speculation. But there's a chance that it could make a move.
Nice.
We'll see.
Dude, we just crossed the 3-hour mark. I think we can go ahead and wrap it up there, man. Hey, before we do though, let's. I just want to hear like what's next for Carter Thomas. Is Coin Mastery coming back?
I have no plans on Coin Mastery. I think that I'll never say I'm ruling it out. I do like the idea of doing like quarterly videos or something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like what's going on, and
You should check in at least like, I don't know,
Like,
what,
yeah,
every few weeks, at least be like, hey guys, here's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know, you got a lot of fans in here chatting at you, man.
I know. I keep thinking to myself, okay, this is a great kind of gets the juices going. It's a lot easier when you're with somebody else.
Yeah.
It's a lot more fun.
Well, now you're in Austin.
Yeah.
Man. We can
So
do this
now
all the time.
we can do this all the time. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not saying no, I'm not committing, but I'm just like,
All right, everybody, go hound Carter. Just kidding. Get him back on the YouTubes.
Yeah.
Oh man, this has been fun though,
This is
man.
great, man. It's
Yeah.
super fun.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for joining us,
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
I mean,
appreciate it.
we basically worked through half this bottle. I can't believe that.
Pretty good for
I'm either
Friday.
going to look back at this tomorrow and be like, what did we do? No.
That's great.
Awesome. All right. Well, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Maybe we'll put this on the podcast too. And
Yeah.
Kev, thanks for handling the show from behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And Carter, most importantly, thanks for being here, brother.
Yeah, glad to be here. This is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
Cheers.
man.
Thanks for everyone for coming.
Yeah. We'll see you guys. I don't know, maybe next week, maybe the week after that. Who knows? Let us know if you guys want to see this again. Take care.